You.
Yeah, I can't turn on my video either. You might have to like click on where it says start video on your right side. Maybe there's an option available or under more.
Let me see. Video setting, choose which.
Uh-oh. Well, Amy, I see your photo. Oh, no, that's Natasha.
Or the other way to do it, Eva, it might be if you made everybody else a co-host and then they would have like one level up and then they could turn their videos on.
Let me take a look.
Yeah.
Okay.
Hi, Lois.
Well, I am a host. So, okay. Maybe you know what? Sorry.
That's interesting. It's the first time that's happened.
Oh, I'm sorry. I think Andrew made the community board account the host. Okay.
Uh-oh. Can we get in touch with Andrew in any way?
I'm on.
Oh, are you
hi, Andrew.
Hi, Andrew.
Hi. So
You made me the host. You made the other account the host.
did I? I'm not sure.
You made Eva. You make you see the panelists. So
Should I make everybody co-host?
can you make me host so I can set it up in a way where, because right now they can see the video. They can see the video is not turned on for them.
Okay, you're the host now.
Okay, let me just see. Did you put a setting where the video is not turned on?
Huh. Yeah, I think that might have been I think that was the default setting.
Yeah, I see that we have 18 attendees and some folks from city DOT and state DOT. So just to let you know, guests, that you can't see us, we're trying to get that straightened out. And as soon as we do, we'll go right into the meeting. I'm so glad that you all are here attending.
Okay, Andrew, are you still here?
Yes.
Okay, so is there a way in the setting where you can turn on all the videos for everyone?
Let me check.
Okay.
So that's interesting though, Eva, you're on. So is that because you're the host?
I have, yeah, Andrew made me a host.
Yeah,
But
so
I'm
we
trying
can see you fine, but you're the only one we can see.
I think Eva, you'll have to make folks co-hosts.
Make who? Make you a co-host?
Make the panelists co-hosts.
Yeah, or even when there's a setting that says allow all whoever was a panelist, there is a setting that says that will allow you to show your video, and I think that may not be clicked.
Oh, that may be it. Yeah.
Yeah, I am trying to look for. I'm in setting, and there's nothing that show that I to turn on video for everyone, which is strange.
Can you assign a co-host to maybe Daniel or myself, and we can?
Okay. Okay.
Dan, sorry, I was.
No, that's okay. I am Daniel actually to my family, so it works well.
Yeah.
Okay,
And
so
then
Daniel,
Dan,
you're a co-host.
Okay, let me take a look now. The thing is, it usually comes in the invitation. So when the invitation is sent out, that's where you click allow everyone
Oh.
to.
Oh,
Anthony got it.
Oh, Anthony, we see you. Let's try to show ourselves.
You have to be pure of heart.
I can see Dan. I think maybe all of us have to become co-hosts in order for us to show our faces.
I'm
Knights
still
of the round table.
preferences.
Oh, I got mine.
All right, so I guess
Are you
now
I'm
co-host?
just
making it
thinking
co-host.
everyone all co-host. So I think
So Adam, are you
when
a co-host now too?
I suppose I am.
Golly, this is really funny.
that's so
It
strange.
sounds
I
like
think
we're
when
all doing disappearing acts and then appearing, right?
yeah, I guess when Andrew he says when he set it up, it was default to where the video was not set up.
You got Janet on now.
Eva,
Is
can you
Janet the
can you make
co-host?
me a co-host?
Who,
Oh,
who's
here I
speaking?
am. Oh no, there I was. Oh no, I'm off now. That's because I'm off.
Okay,
Here I am. Hello,
I'm
everybody.
sorry, I'm looking for you.
Oh, good to see you. Now,
Andrew.
what happened to Anthony? Anthony got turned off. So
Okay,
who's
Andrew, you're
left?
a co-host.
He may have made that decision.
Oh, Anthony, you there?
Yes.
Oh, okay. We just can't see you. Okay. Oh, there's
Okay.
Natasha. Hi, Natasha.
I think I turned on the enable everybody to turn on videos.
Ah, that's
Okay.
it. That's what I was looking for.
Great.
Yes.
There you are. So Amy, you want to turn on yours and Lois as well, because I have to introduce you. Amy?
Here I am,
Yeah,
You
so
see me?
just, okay,
live,
I think we're
live
ready.
and open.
Okay, I see George. I know Joe Playhaven's there. If you guys can show yourself, we'd sure love to see you for a minute. I'd love to introduce you. Okay, so good evening. I think we're all here now. Welcome to Community Board 2 Manhattan's Traffic and Transportation Committee meeting. And I am Shirley Secunda, for those of you who do not know me. And I'm the chair of the committee. And oh boy, I lost everything, I think. Let's see.
George, you're sharing your screen.
Uh-oh.
I'm going to do stop participant sharing. There we
Oh,
go.
there we go. Okay.
So
All
I think
right.
so I think
So I would like to introduce you to our committee and thank you everybody for your patience. So I will do that by calling attendance. And when I call your name, gang, as usual, just, go like this or hit your raise hand button just to show folks who you are. So starting with Natasha, have a lesson.
Here.
Okie dokie, right there. Okay, Natasha. And then Amy Brenner.
Hi.
Hi, Amy. And Ritu Shatri. Oh, she's not there yet. Okay, and Janet Riff, I know is here. So if you raise your hand, hi, Janet. And Dan Miller, we've been seeing you
Here.
talking, Dan, but there you are again. And Lois Rakoff, I saw.
Hi, everybody.
There's Lois. Okay,
Amy?
and Anthony Wan, we've seen you
Hello.
before, Anthony. There you are again. Hi there. And Adam Zeldin. Adam was here a minute ago. Okay,
I'm here.
yeah,
Sorry,
okay.
just wave.
Yeah, keep switching around there. And then we have George Haikalis. He's George. You want to raise your hand? Well, look for George and you'll see George. Okay. And I know that Joe Flayhaven's here. Joe, do you want to show yourself? Okay. Oh, there you are. Okay, just raise your hand, Joe. And now Michael Levine from the board is on. He is not a member of the committee, but he is a board member.
Glad to be here. Thank you, Shirley.
I'm glad to have you. And glad to have all our patient, I hope they were patient guests. Okay, so we have two items on the agenda tonight. Both are presentations by the Department of Transportation. And just to give you a short overview of how we proceed of those two items, they are each presented separately. Then the committee asks questions about them. Then after that, we open it up to the public, and they will both ask questions and give any comments. And this is not the end. We do have what we call a business session where we discuss each of the items that have been presented this evening and decide whether we should do resolutions, what's the nature of the resolution might be, what the nature of the report might be. And then they go to the full board. And the full board meeting this month is on November 19th, I believe, which is a Thursday. And that would be at 6:30. So anybody who's interested in seeing what the full board has to say about these items and how they vote, please do tune in. And you can go to the CB2Manhattan.org website to get all that information on the exact time and the connection to the full board. And ground rules, please don't yell. If you have to say anything, raise your hand. Here comes Ritu Shatri, who's another member of the committee. So she's just signing in right now, so you can see her too. And if you have anything to say to each other, obviously mute yourselves or whatever. I will be using the mute if anybody does yell out. I think that's about it. Gang, can you remember any other rules that we have to tell anybody about? Nope, nope.
No, I think you covered it well.
Okay, then we're ready to begin. Oh, that's not too bad. Just a little behind. Okay, so now we have to elevate several people from the Department of Transportation and I think from the State Department of Transportation. Yep, we have Adam Levine, if you could elevate him. And let's see now. Oh, you can elevate Donna Raftery, who is a member of the board of CB2. Jeffrey LaFrancois. We've got a lot of people here tonight to elevate. And we've got Jessica Kronstein. Am I going too fast? Am I okay, Anthony?
No, you're good. Yep.
Yeah, okay. Let's see what else. Oh, we have Thomas Bear from State DOT as well. So that, I think, is it. Oh, Kimberly Rancourt as well from DOT. Okay. Oh, Kevin Capuno as well, Jeffrey? Jeffrey is saying, bring along Kevin Capuno as well. Okay. And I hope I'm pronouncing his name right. And is that about it, DOT? Can you give me any?
There's a Jackie Lazaro.
Oh, okay. Well, Jeffrey, if you think that the Cornerstone folks should be in on the conversation, can you tell me what their names are? And we can certainly, Jake Elganayan, I think is one, right? Anyone else? God, hey, we got a big cast this time. Okay.
John McMillan also.
Oh, John McMillan. Okay. Got him. Anyone else? Okay.
But just checking on Jackie Lazaro. Is that supposed to be elevated at all? Yes. Okay.
Yes, she's with the Manhattan Borough Commissioner's Office.
Oh, sorry, Jackie Lazaro. Yes, I didn't see your name. Sorry, Jackie. Okay, so the first presentation is.
Oh wait, sorry. Could you promote Kim again? Somehow it didn't take.
Okay. In the meantime, I'll start the introduction anyhow, Jessica. Which is, so the first presentation is by both DOT and the Meatpacking District Business Improvement District. And this is a proposed pedestrian, bicycle, and public space improvements on 10th Avenue between Gansevoort and Horatio Street. And I'm sure the committee remembers, and maybe some of our guests remember as well, that we had actually submitted a resolution, and that was back in June, not that long ago, actually, to ask for a study of that area, because we had been getting some requests for changes there. So thank you for responding to us. And we're looking forward to the presentation. Now, what do we have to do? We have to share a screen, I guess. Who's presenting? Okay, Jessica. So you need your screen shared, right? Yeah, okay. So Anthony, if you can get that underway.
They should be. Okay, yep. You should have that capability.
Great. Thank you.
Looks like you're sharing. Right. See it.
Great. Let's see. Can you see still?
Yep.
Great.
Clear.
Thank you. So thank you for having us. I'm going to start just very quickly with an overview of the project team. So I am representing New York City DOT Public Space. We will be sort of taking the lead on implementation coordination, technical expertise, and standard DOT materials. I'll be joined by the Meatpacking District, and they'll be taking on the ongoing maintenance. And this also sort of fits within their long-term visioning. TF Cornerstone will be helping with the public space implementation and the public space amenities. And then we have a couple of slides to introduce ourselves. So New York City DOT Public Space, we manage a range of programs across the city, everything from open streets, street seats, shared streets, and plazas to programming and maintenance. We really see the public realm as a feedback loop, right? We always start with community partnerships. Through the pandemic, Open Streets has really opened a lot of doors to us and really helped us work with a whole bunch of different partners that we hadn't been able to work with before. That can lead to more physical interventions like street seats, where we turn curbside space into public space, shared streets where we prioritize pedestrians and cyclists through a series of treatments, including geometric changes, plazas where we fully close streets to create public space, and then larger public realm planning. These efforts are all bolstered by our ongoing programming and maintenance programs, and that those, again, lead to more community partnerships and bolster the community partnerships we already have. With that, I'm going to hand it over to Jeffrey. Oh, no, sorry, to Jake and John to talk through TF Cornerstone and introduce themselves.
Sure. I guess I'll start. Jake Elganian from TF Cornerstone. We're a family business. We've been active in the neighborhood since the 80s. My dad's generation converted the buildings at 95 Horatio into residential units in the early 80s. And I actually happened to live in the building. I moved in 2019. And when I first moved in, sort of noticed that the West Street behind the building had become a bit derelict, which has gotten worse during COVID. And so we spent a little bit of time and money working with traffic consultants, trying to come up with ideas, and talking to both the Meatpacking bid and also the Whitney over the years. And then just sort of fortuitously, the community board picked up this issue as well. And then DOT, I think, took some of the planning work we'd done and really made it much better. But anyway, that's another reason why we're here, but we're sort of just happy to try to find a way of making a little bit of a derelict space better.
Hi, everybody. Thanks. It's great to be here with DOT and with Jake and TF Cornerstone. And before TNT again, it's been a while. Nice to see many of you. If you want to go to the next slide, Jessica, that would be great. I think many of you know that view, Gansevoort Plaza, our sort of crown jewel in our plaza network on 9th Avenue. We're the Meatpacking bid. So I'm the executive director. I'm joined today by our operations coordinator, Kevin Capuno, who will share a little bit about what he does. But basically, I think you know a lot about what we do. We work to keep the neighborhood clean, safe, active, and really beautiful. We program and maintain 30,000 square feet of public space. We've got 4 open streets. And what the really crux of it is to support the businesses of the district and improve the quality of life for everybody, whether they're passing through on their way from A to B, whether they live in the bid, or they're visiting from around the world. We want everybody to have a good experience. So next slide, please. Kevin, you want to chat a little bit about our operations sanitation stuff?
Thanks, Jeffrey. So I'm Kevin. I'm the bids operation coordinator, and I oversee our team of 10 sanitation workers who 7 days a week provide supplemental sanitation throughout the district. This includes plaza maintenance, sidewalk sweeping, and litter basket collection from over 100 baskets spread throughout the district. From January through December, we see about 50,000 bags of trash that are bagged and then collected by the Department of Sanitation. There's also a lot of thought and intention behind the way the team sets up and closes the plaza each day. So every morning, plaza furniture is set up by this team. The umbrellas are opened, and at night, the furniture and the umbrellas are closed and locked up in an orderly way. The area that we're speaking about already is part of the bid boundaries. So we would really treat this new area as we do our other public spaces with the same level of intention, same level of cleanliness, and to Jeffrey's point, making sure that the district is a great place for all. And we could go to the next slide.
Great, thank you. And so with that, I think we're going to sort of dive into the proposal. The goals that we all came to together were to expand public space and add public space amenities, create a new crossing for pedestrians and cyclists, enhance safety and traffic calming, as well as clarifying the vehicular traffic pattern and creating a new bike connection to the Greenway. So looking a little bit at the existing conditions, right? It's a super wide roadway. It is not clearly marked. And so it's confusing for everyone, right? Not just pedestrians, it's also confusing for vehicles. And that is unsafe. It also means that there are often multiple vehicles making the same turns onto 9A at once. And because it is such a wide open space that isn't clearly marked, we've seen some ongoing negative behaviors, right? So you can see the sort of figure eights here, or the loops here. From the bike network perspective, we also see a gap in the bike network here, right? So we have the 13th Street Crosstown Bikeway. And so this would act to connect that, to make that connection from the 13th Street Bikeway to the Hudson River Greenway. And then long term, we would also be looking to add a connection to the 12th Street Bikeway through Horatio Street. And so again, sort of diving back into the proposal, right? So the public space and circulation benefits with this design update, right? Creating this new bike lane on 10th Avenue that really makes that connection, right? From Gansevoort to the Greenway, protecting cyclists and pedestrians through the intersection, creating this new pedestrian crossing, making that connection again to the Hudson River Greenway, activating an underutilized space with amenities like plantings, movable furniture, and granite blocks. And then with that public space, really creating a new public space connection, connecting the Meatpacking district to the waterfront. West Street is kind of a daunting crossing. And then there are also safety benefits. Safety is a priority for the agency, but it's a priority for everyone on the project team. So really sharpening the turn onto 10th, right? And aligning it so that southbound traffic just continues southbound. And it's very clear that it is one way for that leg. And adding new pedestrian signals to this crossing. I think we should also note that the sort of final signal layout is still in the works, but this is what we're aiming for. So converting that ball green to a flashing amber left and green right arrow. And then, you know, really sort of led by TF Cornerstone and the bid, we've done a huge amount of coordination with the Whitney to make sure that they are able to get their art deliveries. So as part of that, we would work with the bid and TF Cornerstone to shift the edge objects in towards the curb so that these turns are accommodated from their sort of extra large trucks. And then in terms of implementation, the Meatpacking District, along with TF Cornerstone, would implement the pedestrian space. The Meatpacking District, along with TF Cornerstone, would supply the edge objects and the movable furniture, as well as the planters. And then we at New York City DOT would implement the rest of the markings, you know, the bike lane, and all the signal work and signage changes. And then the Meatpacking District would take on maintenance once the implementation is complete. And then I would also add that the Whitney is working with the team to think through what some possibilities for some asphalt art in the pedestrian space could be. So this is our standard DOT toolkit, right? Everything from epoxy gravel, flexible delineators, planters, bike parking, and the movable furniture that you see throughout the city. This is sort of a similar condition where we've worked with the partner to incorporate art into the public space. And then I think this is sort of closer to how it would feel. So this is very close, just on Broadway between 17th and 18th. This is the Union Square partnerships, or the plaza that we worked with Union Square partnership on. And then in terms of next steps, this is where we are tonight. We're presenting to you guys. Throughout the winter, we'll coordinate the final design details and we'll coordinate the scheduling and the notifications. And then we would be aiming to implement in spring so that we have a full season with the public space. And with that, any questions?
Okay, so first the committee. I see Adam. So we'll start with Adam and his question.
Thank you. I've got like 4 questions. I'll try to be quick, but I'll ask them one at a time. Is there any pickup, drop off, or loading that's taking place on 10th Avenue today between Gansevoort and Horatio, or does all of the actual loading activity take place on Gansevoort, Horatio, or other streets?
I think I can probably answer that one. Basically, it all happens on either Horatio or Gansevoort.
Awesome. So there's, okay. That was my first question. I guess as a follow-up to that question, I would ask, you know, why are we maintaining vehicular access on 10th Avenue south of Gansevoort at all? Why not divert traffic, you know, make people just drive north on 10th Avenue if they're coming from Gansevoort? You know, if the Whitney has deliveries, just, you know, I can't imagine that is a daily occurrence. I've been to the Whitney several times over the past decade, and they have the same, you know, permanent collection, you know, they have rotating stuff, but like the point is, you know, should we design a street for an event that takes place every 6 months? So I'll stop. I realize there were a couple questions in there.
I can jump in on part of that. Adam, thanks for the question on that. Next month, you're going to be receiving a presentation on even in sort of more visioning in this area from the bid about our Western Gateway vision, which incorporates some of what you're suggesting. But the key factor in terms of access here is that Gansevoort ends at 10th Avenue, and it's really a dead end. And the only way to get out of that, once you go this block on Gansevoort, is to sort of go south here on 10th Avenue to get out onto 9A. So at this point in time, sort of circulation is key there. And then in terms of the Whitney operations, believe it or not, it is a number of times a year that they do need access with a special tractor trailer that they require a permit for to get into their loading dock. And then their way to exit is to come down out the loading dock down south on 10th and sort of zip up, make a U-turn to go up 9A. So I'm giving away a little bit of next month, but we have some ideas for the future of what eliminating vehicle access altogether in front of this area is. But step one is this repurposing of space that is not really utilized at all today to make this plaza.
Got it. No, I think I'll just ask a couple follow-up questions there, because isn't 10th Avenue bi-directional north of Gansevoort there? Isn't there a way to escape?
So right now, it is, it's, let's see, one way from 14th to Little West 12th, and then I'm gonna get this, I need to look. Hold on, sorry, it's confusing back there. Yeah, Jessica, do you have that?
Unfortunately, I don't have a map to show you on, but yeah, it's two-way for that one block, but it wouldn't get people back onto 9A necessarily. And it would be forcing.
That's right. It only goes to Little West 12th Street, and that's largely to support meat market operations. That it's sort of from Little West 12th Street south to that flush out onto 9th Avenue, it's two-way. North of that, it's just southbound off of 14th Street.
No, because it's interesting, because, you know, maybe would it be the case that if you force people to turn, you know, if they're coming out Gansevoort, make a right on 10th, make a right on Little West 12th, make a left on 9th, make a left on 14th, and then, you know, get to 9A, you know, would that cause people to pay a bit more of a time penalty, and, you know, maybe would discourage, you know, some of the unnecessary vehicular trips that are taking place in that area?
Can I maybe just step in for a second? Because I think, you know, you'll see in the bids presentation next week that you know, they share your vision, and frankly, I do too. I think it's like a great vision, but it's I guess I wouldn't let the perfect be the enemy of the good here in the meantime. That I think this is something that we're finally getting to the point where a lot of people have. I think we can get this done in a relatively short period of time. I think that longer vision is something that we're sort of supportive of, but it's probably not a 6-month project. It's probably a multi-year project. Part of it is the entrance to the highway and what that sort of becomes a bigger study.
No, that's interesting. I guess the reason for my line of questioning is just that, you know, what we saw on 3rd Street very recently with, you know, the implementation of, you know, a sort of sidewalk extension epoxy is like basically just added parking. You know, I think, you know, I'm now a little skeptical of, you know, some of the incremental change. Like I'm just not sure that, you know, folks are going to realize as much of a benefit, and like, you know, the community, it might be the case that the community doesn't see like a direct benefit, and then would be actually more resistant to the grander vision, you know, that would be the multi-year thing. I think, you know, at some point you just gotta rip the Band-Aid off and show people.
I have to point out, Adam, that it was actually the community that asked for improvements there. So I don't know, but the 3rd Street is very different. And yes, I just have to step in and talk about 3rd Street a minute and just simply say that it was a different kind of configuration for one. And sometimes what happens with projects is that they have to be massaged. And that's what's happening with 3rd Street now. DOT has done a walkthrough with us. They are going back again and revising their plan. Let's hope this doesn't happen here, but that is what's happening on 3rd. And I guess that particular situation might be similar in the sense that you might have to do some changes from time to time. Yeah, that may be the first try around, but okay, that's my comment. Anyhow, Janet.
Well, sorry, just very quickly on that, Adam. I think the only thing I would add, and I don't know the exact sort of particulars of 3rd Street, but you know, where we've done this in the past, I think both through activation, which the bid is an incredible partner on. They also are an incredible partner on maintenance. and through consistent edge objects. We've been pretty successful with public space projects at keeping them public space.
Okay, Janet?
Thank you. I'm just curious why you're not, I mean, it seems like 13th Street is more of a little bit more of a stretch to connect, and 12th Street is right there. Like, why aren't we using this as an opportunity to also connect into the 12th Street bike lane? Like, yeah, why do that later, not now?
So the Gansevoort, so looking at Gansevoort, it's a much sort of easier connection from 13th Street, and it's the same direction. In terms of 12th Street, it would require a little bit more work. We would need to both, where the cobbles are, we would need to create a new bike lane there. We would need to add a ramp at the park space. So these are things that we're thinking about. We just need to make sure that all of it is feasible.
Okay.
And it just may not be part of this particular project, but it is, again, it's stuff that we're thinking about.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
Yep.
Dan?
Yeah, I was going to actually ask the same thing, and I'm glad you're continuing to think about it. It makes sense to have it going one way and also back the other way. Can you go back to the slide where you see the crosswalk, please? Also, I want to just echo what Shirley was saying. It's very, very different over here, Adam. This was an area that was wasted space that really was just like one big open tarmac, and we're trying to, you know, I actually was thinking about city infill stations, and actually right after we presented that, then the Meatpacking came and said, oh, they're thinking about the same thing. We can do even more with it. And that's kind of how we got to this point, because it's actually, people don't park there, people don't drive there. It's just like a big open street area that's being underutilized. So, you know, one of the things we've been talking about on the Hudson River Park Advisory Council over and over again, and Jeffrey knows well from CB4, as you know, we know in CB1 and 2, is the length of time you're giving folks to actually cross the street. And I know that Google is going up down the block, and we still haven't gotten a definitive answer if they're going to extend that, because it's kind of like on a drag raceway. And I worry about the amount of time that's being allotted for people to cross. This is a very busy intersection. How much time are you giving people to cross from that long diagonal from West Street or the Greenway over to the other side of West Street?
So we don't have the exact signal timing worked out yet. That's part of that that sort of winter design process. I think we have standards for how we design sort of timing for crossings, but we do understand that this is like a very, very long crossing.
43 seconds currently.
So, sorry, my colleague just chimed in to tell me that it's 43 seconds currently.
Oh, that's much longer than you've given other areas. So that would be terrific. 43 seconds is kind of what we're advocating for in the
But
other
again,
areas as well.
I do want to, like, that sounds very precise, but it's not totally set in stone.
Okay, well, probably if we're going to comment, we'll comment on at least over 40 seconds in the 43, because this is what we've been told by DOT themselves. So, okay, let's not labor it. Anybody else on the committee have any questions? Okay, you know, I have a question, and I just wonder if your team has had any discussion with the Manhattan Borough President's office. They are right now pushing to get a two-way protected bike lane established on the east side of West Street. And I think this is a big campaign for the borough president, and just wondered if you had any kind of interplay with their office, and if that were the case, and we've been pushing for a long time to have a bike lane on West Street. And just wondered, you're talking about, adding bike lane capacity. And had you considered anything like that, or have you been approached by the borough president's office about that?
Hi, Shirley. I think we'll have to get back to you on that. We can follow up with Ed. I'm not sure what the latest conversations are, but I think for this project, I mean, that would certainly be something that would require much more extensive study. So I think this project is really focused on this particular location, but we can follow up with you on that.
Right. Yeah, okay. All right. Okay, so I think we're going to now ask anybody else, any community board members have any questions? I know Donna had some concerns. Yeah, there you are, Donna. You got your hand up. Okay.
Thank you. I think this is going to be a great improvement to this area, which is a wasted roadway. So I just wanted to know, is there any place going to be for drop-offs of for-hire vehicles in this plan? Or Jeffrey, maybe that's something in what you're presenting next month with this?
We have more details on it on Washington Street. I'm trying to think through, Donna, our plan on this spot there. I don't know. I can't picture at this spot if we do or not.
Okay.
This plan doesn't
have, there's
goes right
nothing
here.
in this stretch. There's nothing in this stretch for that.
Correct. Right. So I think the assumption is sort of, as Jake was pointing to, most of the services will happen on Gansevoort for the buildings that are here. And then pick up, drop off. We aren't changing necessarily the width of 10th Avenue over here. So pick up, drop off can happen on Gansevoort or on 10th for like the Whitney.
Okay, great. And then this little part that you have for the bike lane, when it crosses West Street, is that going to be another like extended buffer zone to protect the bike lane? I'm assuming is what that is, in the middle of the West Side Highway or 9A?
Oh, yes, the tip. Yes, so that's both to protect the bike lane and also, yes, sort of shape the vehicle path.
Okay, great. And then the 43 seconds, is that what's currently there for the crossing that now exists on Horatio? The white line, where people are crossing now, so it's south of Gansevoort by the little park there. Right.
Yes, that is what is currently.
Yeah, because that one always seems to be
current.
that one seems to be relatively long and pretty good for that stretch, but that's great. So, okay, great. I think this is fantastic. So thank you.
Great.
Okay, Ritu.
Thanks for calling on me. I just have a very quick question, which is, there aren't any plans to make Horatio a through street, are there?
No.
Okay, great. I think this plan is excellent. We're looking forward to it. Thank you so much.
Okay, so I think we will go to our guests and Anthony, anybody, participants raised hands.
Yeah, I'll call on Jonathan Weisman first.
So yeah, you want to call on them?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Oh, yes, Nicole, first, oh yeah, this is Nicole Barth is here from Councilperson Eric Botcher's office. And I think we have some other folks from our other.
But yeah, Jonathan Weisman.
Yeah, I'm just waiting for everybody to finish, I guess, the introductions. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Can I go ahead? Is that okay?
Yeah, I see that. I think Roy Ruiz is here from Assemblymember Deborah Glick's office, and I'm just trying to see if there is anyone else that is here from the legislator's offices. Oh, there's Carter Booth from Community Board 2, if you want to elevate him, if he has a question or such. And okay, sorry about that, Nicole. Reminded me to introduce you. So let's hear what you have to say. There?
Wait, okay, hold on one second.
Am I not going, Anthony?
Yeah, surely. I allowed Jonathan Wiseman to speak first.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's no
Well, if
problem. No
he's
worries.
speaking first, then let's
Yeah.
have him.
I'm just going down the
Usually-
line. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, members of the committee and everybody else for this presentation. I think it's a good presentation to have something a little bit in a little bit of a wasted space. Just a couple questions, one to Jessica on the DOT. You mentioned a few things about different people and feedback, but what was the feedback from residents in the neighborhood? And what, in terms of car traffic, was there done as far as an analysis? Because it seems like everything was directed to other areas, but I didn't see you mention anything about traffic or cars or even neighborhood feedback. So that was one question. And then I just have a second question as a follow-up.
So I can answer the vehicle question. So we are narrowing it to one lane, but currently it is sort of mapped as one lane. So I think what we see here for vehicle access is that it will be both much clearer, much less confusing, and much safer.
I understand the safety thing, but in terms of like, there was mentions of drop-offs, and you know how Uber, actually Uber sometimes stops on the West Side Highway, which is actually, in terms of safety, is very, very dangerous. So will that space be enough so if a car is double parked, that other vehicles can pass through as opposed to a car just sitting there and blocking traffic? Was that taken into consideration? Because you're saying it's only allowing one vehicle to pass. So will it be wide enough to let an ambulance go by? Will it be wide enough to let a fire truck go by?
Yeah, I mean, so it is, I should say, this is the vehicle path. It is shaped around sort of the extra large trucks of that the Whitney uses. So those are, as Jeffrey mentioned, like they are larger than our streets typically have the capacity for. So they require a special permit and special routes, meaning that the width of the street is
Enough for
is
two
wide enough.
vehicles to fit?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, and especially if there's cars parked. And then my question is, why wasn't there addition? I mean, is it actually the space that goes from 10th Avenue to Washington on Gansevoort also is considered a big tarmac? Why didn't we move any of that space towards Washington Street and make it a wider block? Why does it stop?
Sorry, say that again. The space
So
on
on
10th Avenue from Washington to.
Yeah, on your drawing here, it has, I think it stops like 1/4 of the way up Gansevoort going east, right? And then, but that street is pretty wide. Why does it stop there and not continue all the way to Washington?
You mean the plaza portion?
Yeah.
So I think a lot of the sort of concerns that you're voicing about vehicle access and pickup drop off.
This is not vehicle access. This is actually kind of adding to the plaza as opposed to,
yes,
yeah.
no, I follow. I think what I was where I was headed is that we expect those to be accommodated on Gansevoort. So this is the current parking lane.
But you're not allowed to park there.
Right, but we expect a lot of the pickup drop off and a lot of the services to happen on Gansevoort.
You're not allowed to, you can't park there because it's actually a restaurant there that has a booth, and then there's nothing there. You're not allowed to park there.
But somebody asked earlier about, how deliveries and drop-offs will be made. Basically the Gansevoort side is where all the businesses that are in this building have their garbage picked up, and where the residential.
But it's only the Whitney
have
Museum in one building.
Well, I guess the one building on the south side of Gansevoort Street needs to be able to have garbage service.
Yeah, that's understandable, but the street is wide enough to be able to, like, the concept of having this huge open space that's, that you guys are taking over, which I think is amazing. Why can't we just extend it all the way up to Washington Street? Why hasn't that thought? I mean, that's street.
If I could jump in on that from the
Yeah.
perspective there. This is useful to hear. Thanks for raising it. I think that, you know, when we think about our streets, it's the use for today and then how we can plan for the future as well to accommodate that. And as we're thinking about this area, what I am so excited about is that this is a first step towards a much wider vision that we are going to be presenting to this committee next month from the bids perspective. And I think as you make these comments, in my mind from the bid seat, it's like, this is useful. Thank you. Keep saying this kind of stuff. From whether or not it will apply to this one, I think the concentration has been to address a number of issues identified specifically in this area, not just from a safety standpoint, but, you know, I personally have identified, and we have a record of vehicles making a right-hand turn off of 9A to go up this part of 10th Avenue, which is illegal. The pictures that Jessica showed of the donuts that get blown in the intersection of, you know, of Gansevoort and 10th there happening.
I think that was during COVID. I think that was during COVID. I mean, that happens all over the city.
I know, but we'd like it to not happen here, and this plan will help to prevent that from happening.
No, I know.
So I think that, I guess I would
understand.
say I'm excited to hear these things from you from the bid perspective, because we're coming with an even wider vision for more in this area on the whole, to be thinking through how we can implement in the time ahead. And that's next month.
Just one more question. Is this the only presentation that goes open to the public or to residents of the neighborhood? Or is there another moment when this will be presented again to the neighborhood? Like, what kind of feedback is the committee going to go reach out to the community for this?
Are you asking what the committee will do?
Yeah.
Obviously, we're going to ask them to update us on the plan.
No, I'm talking about you.
the beginning.
I'm talking about Shirley as yourself, trying to figure out, like, how do you reach out to the local residents regarding this vote and when it gets voted on and the planning of this?
Well, we have several different outlets. I mean, the community board does reach out to local residents. You're aware of that yourself, Jonathan. You get a calendar, right, and announcements. The bid, of course, will be reaching out.
Okay. Okay, so we'll be notified.
Intention certainly is to, of course.
Okay, yeah, no, I just want to make sure we'll be notified, because it just seems if you're not signed up to CB2, you won't know. So I'm just wondering.
Well, then maybe you can help us spread the word when we're ready.
Okay.
You willing to do that?
Oh, I'm definitely willing to do that. That's
Great.
not a problem.
Okay, so let's move on, Anthony. Who's next? Can we fit?
Yeah, Michael Markowitz.
Okay.
Hi, let me know if you can hear me.
Yes.
Hi,
We hear
I
you.
got a couple points written down just for compactness. Let me just rattle through them. First, I appreciate any effort to beautify this area. I live at Bank in Washington, and the out of control cars with spin outs and donuts on that block's definitely been a problem. So I'm really glad to see some motion toward beautifying that block and making it a little more modern than what we're inheriting from, 18-wheeler city a long time ago. That said, got a couple concerns with the plan as presented in the presentation in general. In no particular order here, the existing bike lane maps that were presented showing the major 12th Street and 13th Street crosstown bike lane map. I wish that had shown actually more detail in the specific area, including there's evidently something going on with the bike lanes in front of the Village Pizza at Greenwich Avenue and 8th Avenue that are trying to feed bikes west. I'm not sure if that's connected with the removal of the city bike rack at the park across the street. But my point is that the bike lane network in that area is a lot more sophisticated than what was shown on the slides. And when bikes want to cross to get to the west side of West Street and use the Hudson River Park path, they're using the crosswalks that exist in general. Next point is in that general area, there's already a good number of, for lack of a better phrase, loop-de-loops that we make car drivers go through. There have been a number of recent changes in directions of streets, blocked off streets, including near the gas station on 8th Avenue, changes at West 13th Street, Gansevoort and West 4th, which is a complicated intersection that right now does not work. People cheat on the sign regulations. And I would just encourage that a traffic and transportation committee's emphasis should be the efficient movement of people, goods, and services, not, as I thought I heard earlier, willful time penalties. Lord knows there's already plenty of those. Next point, city infill stations. Yeah, I get it, more city bike racks imply more usage. However, the racks are always full, and constantly people have to go to adjacent racks or far away from their destination to get an open slot to park the bikes. Between Lyft and the city with a Y, nobody's cracking the whip on City Bike and Lyft to rebalance the racks so that they're actually more useful. If a rack is completely full or completely empty, it's not really working right. And right now, Lyft doesn't do anything for rebalancing. Next point, diagonal crosswalks are about 40% longer than straight crosswalks. That means 40% more time. As an engineer myself, I don't get it. I think that's a little unnecessary. Plus, if you make people walk diagonally from northeast to southwest while cars are trying to get out of the pocket we're talking about onto southbound West Street, you got cars coming virtually from behind a pedestrian over their shoulder. That's not good, and I dare say that's not a safe practice. With respect to one lane in the proposal, that, as sure as I'm sitting here, it's going to lead to blockage and honking. This area is going to be rife with drop-offs, and some people wanting to go straight. Surely there's a way to do this that's 2 lanes, not 1, or it's just going to back up. Related to that, in the yellow zone shown on the screen right now, there's no more loading on that block. That east side of the yellow is a lot of loading docks. I can't believe none of them are in use, or that the building owners wouldn't take that as a takeaway of their property access, property rights, maybe even property value, to effectively seal them off. Next point, on the north side of the yellow area, north side of that block, that little yellow tip hits one of my own pet peeves, which is that DOT, no disrespect, has frequently incurred a pattern of making choke points at intersections. Nominally shortens the pedestrian crossing distance and cross light time, but empirically, you can see this a lot in Midtown. If you don't give a turning motion car a turn pocket, which is standard practice for engineers, you're going to back up everybody who wanted to turn the other direction or merely go straight. So the first thing I would do with this is clip that off, or make sure it's wide enough that you have 1 lane for people turning left and 1 lane for people turning right at that corner, right under the GAN of Gansevoort. The last 2 points, one in general, one specific. Another way to deal with spin outs is speed bumps. You know, guys doing wheelies, doing spin outs, spinning their wheels, sorry. They need and like flat surfaces, nothing like a speed table or any kind of bump to discourage that. And the general comment is, I'm hoping that the next meeting, the chat features re-enabled, and I'm glad to see at least some of the panelists visible on my screen on the right. I can only see 4 or 5, just to make this all feel more participatory. And I echo everything my friend and colleague Jonathan Weitzman has said. And again, I want to close by thanking you all for your efforts, which leads to my last point. We shouldn't be piecemealing the transportation system anywhere, let alone in this area. I would encourage the committee to defer any decision on this until we see how it integrates with the rest of the meatpacking district plan that we've heard coming up soon. And hopefully that includes involvement of the West Side access concept that we had a presentation on a couple months ago. And with that, I thank you all very much. Donna Raftery, please reach out to me because the signal timing at 14th and 9th is still a mess. And I know you and I were both on it.
Okay. well,
Shirley and
thank you.
everyone, thank you very
Thank
much.
you, Michael. So let's move on. Anthony, we have lots
Yeah,
of
yeah, next one,
other
Pete Davies.
folks waiting, right?
Yep, next one, Pete Davies.
Hello, thank you very much. I was just last week listened to the presentation from the United States Army Corps of Engineers for the proposal they have, which includes the entire west side of the West Side Highway, which includes proposals for massive construction of seawalls and other things for coastal resiliency. And I was just curious how much of this plan that you're putting forward now and next month has been informed by that proposal and how these would be integrated, considering the construction buffer that the United States Army Corps of Engineers has determined will be necessary to work on those installation of seawalls along the Hudson River Park. Thank you.
Okay, next person, Nicole Barth.
Oh, that was a question.
Oh,
That was a question. Anybody
Formed.
the team have an answer? Can you address Pete's question?
Well, I do think we know from the 9A folks with state DOT that they have no need for this space, no future identified need for this space.
Even construction? Okay.
Correct.
Because the only thing I'll add is it's nothing, the timeline at which that plan is working on versus the timeline that I'm at least hopeful that this plaza is working on is, I don't think if this plaza happens and then 10 years from now, they finally get around to doing that stuff and somehow it's important for resiliency to change this. I don't think anything we do here will preclude that.
Anything here would what?
Changing this from a roadway to a plaza won't preclude, a need later on for them to say, oh, it's actually important for resiliency to, put up a seawall or something.
Okay, but it looks like from what they're planning, there's a good chance that a lot of the bike lane on the Hudson River Park is going to be impacted. So anyway, I would advise everybody on the committee to look at that United States Army Corps of Engineers report that was put out. They have a presentation again on November 5th. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Pete. Dan.
I was just going to say, I'm not aware of that seawall plan. I mean, we've heard a lot about what's happening about the battery and no continuation throughout the park. So I would be interested to take a look at what you're speaking about, but I haven't heard anything about it, nor has it been publicized, at least to my knowledge, in the Hudson River Park.
Okay. So next, I think we have Nicole Barth, right?
Yes.
Hi, everybody. Good evening. We have looked at many plans and we've talked with everybody from the meatpacking bid, Jeffrey and Evan and Kevin. From my perspective, I am going by the complaints that I receive about different areas over here, Gansevoort, Horatio, and the crossing. And I have to say that having, there's a number of things I see is working pretty great here. When you're coming off Gansevoort and taking that left, we all know the donuts, but it's not just donuts. It's a gathering place for people to like race and look at each other's cars. And it's turned into like this hangout point. And I think that by incorporating this kind of pedestrian plaza buffer area, that will take away some of the space for that to happen. Probably will also be better lit, I'm assuming. As far as other complaints we've had with the very wide roadway and then turning onto 9A is that because it's not single lane, you'll have many cars jockeying for position as to who's going to be the first one to be able to pull out and turn left onto 9A to go south. And that results in people kind of zooming out and racing out. And then there's like a crosswalk, just under it. So it's kind of turned into a dangerous situation. I love the idea of the diagonal crosswalk and the bike lane, so much safer than what's happening now. And I'm assuming, the light pattern will change if it's one lane and then taking a left down onto 9A. I'm just trying to think if there was, I don't see a speed bump really working there, given that there are deliveries being made. There's a lot of trucks and there's also stuff coming, speed bumping around deliveries to the Whitney with these giant trucks. But I just like how the pattern, how that very wide, confusing road is now thinned out. And I think it's much clearer in the traffic pattern. So that's just me throwing in my 2 cents, just given the complaints and the current concerns that I hear from the residents here at the district office. Thank you.
Hey, thanks, Nicole. Who have we got next then?
Jeffrey Rowland.
Hi, Jeffrey.
Hi. Just 2 things. First, a technical thing for the committee. I find because the transcript save feature is disabled, I can't tell you that in the chat because that is also disabled. So I have not been able to save the transcript, which I would like to refer back to later. So if you could correct that in the future, I'd appreciate it. Now on to this subject. I don't understand why there's even a southbound component of 10th Avenue at all below 14th Street, really, or at least below Little West 12. I can't imagine the usefulness of it, except as serving somehow a cross-town entrance from 14th Street, which is not even a useful one because they could certainly turn at 10th Avenue and go up to 15th Street where they have full access to north and southbound lanes. So this seems to me to be a waste of space utilized for automobiles. And I drive a car, so I'm concerned about this, but a waste of space for an automobile that is little used and not really needed and would be better served to be turned into entirely pedestrian area. And make the 10th Avenue northbound from Gansevoort Street or even above that, 13th Street or all the way to 14th Street, just make it northbound. I mean, there's just no need for a road there at all. That's my feeling. Can somebody explain to me a reason for having a southbound component and an entrance to the highway there when there is a perfectly good one at 15th Street?
I'm happy to jump in on that. There's critical meat market operations that happen at the backside of the co-op on 10th Avenue between Little West 12th and Gansevoort, and also access for the Whitney Museum. Their loading dock is on the 10th Avenue side, on the north portion of the museum. Are the sort of critical factors back there. So the
entrance the entrance to the highway component is not necessary at all.
I think
I'm not suggesting you close 10th Avenue above Gansevoort Street.
But
I just think that there's absolutely no value to it below Gansevoort.
Well, in fact, until we figure out another way to get on the highway, there is, because those trucks, frankly, I don't think the community, and I speak for the bit here, we wouldn't want to be pushing large sized trucks through the meatpacking district to get back onto 9A. This is an easy way for them to flush out from here. And those are trucks that provide meat and goods to the meatpacking plant, and then Whitney Museum trucks as well.
But also, I think Jeffrey Rowland, I think you'll be happy when you see the bids sort of longer term vision for this next week, which will address the pedestrianization. And like I said, we're supportive of that plan. I just think that's probably there needs to be capital, there needs to be more DOT study to get there. And so I'd encourage people not to let that long-term plan be the enemy of the interim plan.
Well, by and large, I think the DOT has been doing a pretty excellent job in many intersections around the city. And so I'm not really critical of you. If you think that it's necessary, it's necessary. But again, back to the committee, I really would appreciate the save feature of the transcript being activated. That is very helpful. And you
I
can't,
don't
if
even
you don't
know,
have the
I
chat,
didn't
you
know
can't
that
tell you
happened. Jeffrey, may I ask you, is it usually not inactivated?
It usually is at the bottom of the transcript when you have it on the side window, it says save, but because you disable the chat feature, the save feature is also disabled. And I can't tell you that in the chat because the chat feature is disabled. So
Okay,
I
that
sent you an
shouldn't
email,
be.
but you didn't get it. So
Okay, that shouldn't be. And I think when you came on tonight, I think you probably were aware that there have been a lot of glitches tonight. So
yeah,
your word is considered, and whoever is taking care of it, I hope they can fix it.
thank you for your time.
Okay. Okay, who's next?
Next person is Zach. No last name.
Okay, Zach. Probably Weinstein.
Hello.
Hi, Zach.
Yeah, hi. I'm sorry. Is my mic on?
Yes.
Yeah, hi. Yeah, sorry. Yeah, my name's Zach Weinstein. I'm a neighborhood resident. I live at Horatio and Washington Streets. Also, just to the point of neighborhood notifications, I did send out word about this presentation to about 120 people on my email list, all of whom are generally active in the community. And so hopefully that also helped get the word out.
Thank you.
As a resident who walks by this area on an almost daily basis, just want to say this really does seem like an excellent plan and seems to address, make the most of the opportunities that this currently wasted space might offer. I've got one question, one concern, and it does relate to the drop-off issues on the west side of the West Coast building. We've been in the past negotiated at some length with Barbudo, the restaurant at the northeast corner of Horatio and West Street, to encourage them to have their patrons be dropped off on West Street as opposed to being dropped off on Horatio Street to relieve traffic on the Jane Horatio Street loop. And certainly in this current plan, it looks like that might no longer be possible. That brings up my question, which is, on the plan that's on screen right now, immediately to the west of the driving lane on West Street, there is a sort of oval shaped area with some hatch marks on it. What is in that space? Is that just paved space with hatch marks on it to indicate you're not supposed to drive there? Or is that space that is going to be landscaped in some way with seating? What exactly is supposed to be happening there?
Yeah, so I can answer that very quickly. We are working with the BID and TF Cornerstone on landscaping and other amenities. We can't put seating there because we don't have a safe crossing. So we can't, it's not safely accessible to pedestrians from a DOT perspective. But again, we would be putting in other sort of more, I guess, less movable seating and more planters. Does that make sense?
Yeah, thank you. That does make sense.
And just another quick follow-on question to that. I assume the reason the lane can't be justified all the way to the left there is because of the turning radius of the 18-wheelers. Okay.
Correct.
Okay. Who have we got next?
We have repeat hands from Michael and Jonathan.
I think we really have to move on, so we're not having repeats. Ordinarily, they had a lot more time than we usually give to folks too. So sorry, guys. Thanks for your input.
So last time this was put over.
So I guess that's all, right?
Billy, if I could just make
Yep.
If I could just make a potential request for the committee, and this is putting my friends at DOT a little bit on the spot, but we had this discussion, and it would be very useful if the committee could include in its resolution, if you are so inclined to recommend this, which I sure hope you are. I want to give props to DOT for the really remarkable turnaround, given when the community board asked for this and how we've been engaging with TFC and others in the neighborhood on it. But it'd be super useful for the bid and for TF Cornerstone if the city could provide some of the granite blocks that exist elsewhere for its perimeter. There is a supply factor on them, and I am aware and respectful of that, but it would be very useful to at least begin to have the correspondence. And of course, I appreciate Jessica's grin on this. If you could include that, it would be really helpful for us because it would be a significant cost savings for the bid. And so if we could just think about how mixing DOT granite block with some bid planter treatments is sort of how we're thinking about it, and would appreciate that if it could make its way into the resolution.
Okay, can you give an example of where else you think the granite blocks really work?
So, well, Jessica showed some of those examples. We have them all along our plazas on 9th Avenue and Gansevoort Street, which have a 4-inch curb. But this example here on Union Square is at grade on the roadway. And these are just, to some of the folks' point before, right? These are sort of impenetrable from a vehicle perspective. And so they're very safe. Frankly, there's an aesthetic that works well in our neighborhood. We want it to be identified as a pedestrian space. And so this mix of granite block and planter is something we'd like to be able to carry over there.
Okay, so Union Square. So what is that, 17th Street there, or where?
Yeah, this is between
Broadway?
17th and 18th. So this is 17th Street. That's Union Square Park.
And surely the ones that are in CB2 that you could reference around University south of 14th on the shared street there.
Oh, yeah, those, okay. Okay, so this is between 17th and 18th, and what is that, Broadway?
Correct.
Yeah. Okie dokie. All right.
I have a quick question for Jeffrey.
Oh,
That's okay.
yeah, okay.
Does it have to be concrete? Can it be another surface that's more spongy or grassy or something? Or is there a reason that it has to be concrete?
I guess just in this case, we would just be painting the asphalt. We're not doing a sort of a capital expansion of the sidewalk or anything here, right? We're just going to repurpose the roadway. So at this point, it is, you know, going to be a paint factor, and then we need some hard edges to make sure there's a safety factor.
Yeah,
I think, Daniel.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think what Jeffrey's pointing to, and I can share screen again, is this is our standard toolkit, right? So this is probably a better picture. As Jeffrey is noting, it is paint and markings, epoxy gravel, granite blocks, and that is part of how we can move so quickly because it's all in-house materials. And so if we were, you know, as we have discussed sort of many times tonight, there's a longer term vision that Jeffrey's team has been working on that would require just a much larger investment and a lot more time.
Okay, so I guess when I think of the epoxy gravel, and I know Adam brought up West 3rd Street, and it's not enough there, obviously. But in this case, you would combine both the plantings and the granite blocks. So it would really define the area, right? I guess. Okay.
Correct. Yeah. I mean, I think the reason I keep going back to this picture is because spatially this is sort of about the same size. So we think it would feel about the same.
Okay.
Yep. And it would be all of these sort of elements.
So if we would use it, we'd probably use this example in the resolution. Okay, anything else? Committee, do we want to ask any other questions? Are we pretty well okay? So you know what, Jessica, if you can just now pull out from your shared screen, and we thank you very much for your presentation. And obviously, you're all welcome to stick around for our business section, where we will, oh, the chat is enabled? Oh, great. Thank you, Jeffrey Rowland, for letting us know that. And I don't know, Anthony, is there any way you can put in the save transcript feature? No.
Nope.
We're kind of stuck. We're all stuck then this time, Jeffrey Rowland. but thank you for bringing that to our attention. Anyhow, thank you, everybody, DOT, TL Cornerstone, the meatpacking bid for your presentation. You can anybody who wants to can stick around later for our business session when we'll discuss this a little more. And you won't be able to talk, but you can at least listen to what we're saying. And then again, the resolution will be coming up in our full board. So now we actually have DOT doing another presentation.
Thank
And
you,
this
Shirley.
is-
Nice to see everybody.
Okay, good night to you, Jeffrey.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you again.
Thank you and good night.
So the next one is DOT has a new car share program, and I believe we have some folks from DOT here to present on that. So Jackie, can you tell me about that? Who's here from DOT to present on that?
She's put it in the chat. It's Tori Fishman.
Tori Fishman. So then we have to elevate Tori
Rachel
Fishman. And I
Anthony.
see her. Torrey Fishman Anthony. And who else?
Rachel and Tell Me.
Oh, Rachel and Tony. Okay, we've got you both elevated. So you are the
And
one.
Adrian M.
And Stevie Fang.
No,
And Stevie Feig.
TV Feig. I don't see Adrian M.
No, neither do I. Is she definitely on?
Adrian.
Hi, Adrian should be joining
in.
us in a few minutes.
Okay, so can we begin without Adrian?
Yes, we can.
Yes. Hi,
Okay.
everyone. I'm going to share my screen.
Okay.
All right. Can everyone see that?
Yes.
Yes.
Great. Great. All right. I'm Stevie Feig with the Department of Transportation. And I'm going to present with my partners, Rachel from Getaround and Tori from Zipcar on the permanent car share program. I'm just going to give a little background and talk about our 2-year pilot that we ran, and then I'm going to turn it over to our car share partners. So just a little background on car share. It provides on-demand short-term access to a shared fleet of vehicles, typically through a membership, and you rent by the hour or for the day. So DOT ran a car share parking pilot program. It started in June of 2018 and ran through 2020. Zipcar and Enterprise were our partners, and the program comprised of 230 on-street spaces. 70 of those spaces were in Upper Manhattan and 55 municipal parking facility spaces. During the 2-year pilot, we averaged 24 trips per space per month, serving an average of 17 households per available vehicle per month. So during the pilot, we saw greenhouse gas emissions and vehicles mile traveled decline 7% and 6% respectively. We also partnered with University of Berkeley to do a pilot evaluation. They gave 3 very detailed customer surveys, one before the pilot, during the pilot, and after. And through that survey, it was concluded that for every 1 car share vehicle on the road, 4 personal vehicles were either not purchased or sold. And so within Community Board 2, we have a total of 7 requested sites. Each site is 2 parking spaces. They will be located on the same block face at the corner with regulatory signage. And with that, I will turn it over to Rachel from Getarounds.
Great, thanks, Stevie. Hi, I'm Rachel. I'm on the Getarounds Government Partnerships team. Proud New York City resident. Yeah, Getaround is a round-trip car share company. We provide affordable and accessible shared vehicles to those who need them to live and work. We were founded in 2009 with the idea of doing something with underutilized cars that sit idle about 95% of the day. We are now present in more than 350 cities in the US and almost 1,000 cities worldwide with 6 million users. Next slide, please. So how does it work? Getaround is free to join, and there are no membership fees or recurring monthly fees. You can book trips for as little as 1 hour, so there's no need to pay for a full day of vehicle access if you really only need a car for a couple hours. So it's great for picking up groceries or going to a doctor's appointment or getting to a meeting that you maybe can't reach by transit. And the sign-up process is pretty simple. First-time users upload their driver's license to our app and can be approved in just a few minutes. You don't have to wait for a membership card or wait in any lines or anything. And once you're registered, there's no need to carry an access card or coordinate picking up car keys. Our Getaround Connect technology is installed in the vehicle, which allows you to unlock the car remotely through the app. And of course, trips come with insurance as well as customer support. Next slide, please. Okay, a lot of information here. We'll try to break it down. So we have 3 major objectives here at Getaround: to be an equitable mobility solution, to reduce congestion, and to be friendly to our environment. Essentially, we want to complement existing modes in the city and be part of the transportation ecosystem. So first line here, we see that a large percentage of users identify as people of color, are low income, and rent their homes rather than own. On the second line, we see people sell their car or delay purchasing a car after access to Carshare, and that most people use their personal car much less after using Carshare. And on the third line, in the realm of helping the environment, we see that most of our users don't own a car and actually share trips with others. So they're not only sharing a vehicle, but also sharing the trip, which are both great. And finally, we know that one Carshare vehicle can take up to 13 personal cars off the road. So this means we help free up space at the curb, help reduce traffic, and provide service to those who need it. Next slide, please. So when looking at locations, we consider areas that are near other shared modes of transportation, like city bike docks, subway stations, and bus stops, in order to contribute to strong connectivity between modes within the transportation network. We consider areas that are highly visible. We know that 30% of people find out about car sharing just by seeing the dedicated signs or car decals on the street. And we look for safe, reliable locations that are well lit and well traveled. Next slide, please. So in your community district, DOT has approved 6 of our location selections shown here on the map. Each site will have 2 shared vehicles for a total of 12 get-around cars in Manhattan Community District 2. Using DOT siting criteria, we tried to disperse locations throughout the district and still meet demand. And as an extremely car-light district with 82% zero-car households and 17% single-car households, we think that shared vehicles can be a really huge asset in this community district. Next slide, please. So in consultation with DOT, we've created an equity and outreach plan to connect with community members and reach populations in need. To spread the word about car sharing and to reach as many New Yorkers as we can, we're offering a few different types of discounts. First, we have Intro to Car Sharing, which is a one-time discount to encourage new users to try car sharing for the first time. Next is through community organization partnerships. We would choose community organizations and donate discount access to Carshare. So for example, that could be a food pantry that has volunteer drivers delivering food, or Little League that needs to transport their equipment. If anyone has ideas for a community partnership in your district, please do let us know. And lastly, discounts for underserved communities and those on public assistance like NYCHA residents, where we would provide a recurring discount to reduce the cost and ensure that car share is an equitable option. Our team is designing materials that we'll share with community organizations, city departments, elected officials, and residences to reach as many people as we can with this information. We'll also be collecting regular user feedback to understand what's working and what isn't, so that we can do our best to meet the needs of each of the communities we operate in. Thanks.
Now we're going to have Tori Fishman from Zipcar present.
How's it going? My name is Tori Fishman. I'm a manager for public partnerships and policy here in New York City for Zipcar. Thank you to DOT and to CB2 for arranging this meeting. I'm looking forward to giving you a briefing on Zipcar's participation in the program and answering any questions that you might have. Zipcar is the world's leading car sharing network. We've been in New York City for over 20 years. We've been partnering with city government for over 10 of those. We have over 2,500 different vehicles in our New York City tri-state area fleet, 60 different makes and models, stationed at over 600 different locations. We have 190,000 members in New York City, with upwards of 97,000 of those members here in Manhattan. We really have a focus on enabling simple, responsible, sustainable urban living through car sharing, giving people an option to have all the benefits of owning a personal car without the cost and hassle of actually owning a car. 85% of our members in New York City do not own a car. 25% of them got rid of their car after joining Zipcar. 35% of them postponed buying or leasing a car after joining because of their Zipcar membership. And 34% of them would buy a car if Zipcar disappeared. So if you take that 34% of people who would buy a car if Zipcar disappeared, 190,000 members in New York, that's a lot of personally owned vehicles that we are keeping off of city streets. And we're really happy to be doing that. And it's in no small part because of our partnership with DOT. Our members also tend to ride public transit more. They tend to walk more. They tend to bike more. Overall, they live multimodal lifestyles. 70% of our members ride public transit at least 5 times a week. And 95% of them maintain public transit usage even during the pandemic, where we saw that number drop to about 50% of non-Zipcar members. If we could go to the next slide, please. Thank you. For those of you who are unfamiliar with Zipcar, we offer an easy, affordable transportation option. You can download the app or go to our website. You can book a car for an hour. You can book it for a day. Our cars are available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Nationally, we find that our members save upwards of $784 a month compared to owning a car. But in New York, where everything's more expensive, we know that number is certainly much higher here. Every reservation includes gas. So somebody who's been a Zipcar member much longer than they've been a Zipcar employee, I always found that to be a huge value add. Makes life a lot easier, especially with gas prices being what they are. When you return home, there's a dedicated parking spot waiting for you. Insurance, maintenance, 24/7 roadside assistance, in the very unlikely event that you would need it, are all included. Thank you. So again, we offer the ability to have the benefits of owning a car without the cost and hassle of actually owning it. We service a number of neighborhoods of different socioeconomic levels across all 5 boroughs, and we're committed to every community that we serve. And we're proud that our members, by embracing Carshare, have a positive impact on the environment and on the community. By using Carshare, by using Zipcar, it results in fewer emissions. Our members reduce their carbon footprint by up to 1,600 pounds per year, which is the equivalent of planting an acre of forest. And our members our fleet gets 23% more MPG than the US average. Our members tend to drive less. In New York City, our members drive 90% fewer miles than the average number of miles driven by other New York City households. And they drive 73% fewer miles than they would if Zipcar wasn't available. They also carpool more, similar to what Get Around presented. Our trips, 73, 74, 75%, somewhere in there, of all trips have at least 2 or more people in the car. Taking the aggregate, this results in less emissions, cleaner air in the community, reduced congestion and traffic on city streets. And most importantly, in the context of the DOT program, it creates more space. Every Zipcar and every Carshare vehicle generally has been shown to take upwards of 13 personally owned vehicles off city streets, transforming curb space and providing for bigger and better uses for the community. I know you're talking about many of those uses with the DOT presentation before this one. So we're really excited to contribute to that, and through the DOT program, to hopefully make those downstream effects a little more prominent in CB2. We have one location that we're requesting here in CB2. When you ask how do we select the space, there are a number of factors that went into play. In this community specifically, the biggest factor was that DOT has a number of siting criteria that limit where we can and can't request on-street spaces. But our internal selection criteria is that we have a proprietary algorithm that tracks demand, but particularly unmet demand. every time you open your phone, every time someone goes to book a Zipcar, but more importantly, every time someone can't book a Zipcar because none are available because we just can't fit enough in the community. That's a data point that gets tracked in the aggregate that happens tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of times. And it allows us to create a sort of heat map on where there's a lot of unmet demand in the city and where we could really use more Zipcars, particularly on-street Zipcars. We look for locations that can provide easy access, can seamlessly integrate in the neighborhood with a strong bias for locations that are adjacent to existing infrastructure, whether it's a bus stop, subway stop, bike lane, pedestrian thoroughfares, all of those factors. And that's really a reflection of the fact that people who embrace car share, people who use Zipcar, tend to live multimodal lifestyles, and we're trying to create de facto mobility hubs for various forms of transportation. Most importantly, for the DOT on-street program, we are looking for locations that allow us to provide access to areas that we are otherwise unable to serve. The on-street car share program is a huge benefit to the city because of that, and it allows us to expand accordingly and to provide an amenity to as many New Yorkers as possible. As part of our participation in the on-street program, we have an equity and outreach plan. During the pilot, we started the NYCHA partnership, which provides free membership and driving credits for all NYCHA residents for the first year, and then severely discounted membership thereafter, and discounted rates on cars that are parked at NYCHA locations. We also have dedicated marketing materials we work with NYCHA to distribute to make sure that all residents are aware they're distributed in at least 4 different languages. As part of this expansion, we're really happy and excited to announce a SNAP program, which will give discounted membership to all qualified SNAP recipients in New York City, which is over 1.7 million New Yorkers and 1 million households. And we find that Zipcar has a disproportionately positive impact on lower income households. 71% of lower income households say that Zipcar has improved their quality of life. So we're really excited to expand that benefit to an even broader population of people. We're also putting locations at a lot of equity sites as part of our participation, or any car share company's participation in the on-street program. We're required to have 20% of our vehicles in equity locations. In our site request for this program, we have over 60% of our vehicles at equity locations, and that's really just a tangible commitment of that we're working on giving car share to neighborhoods that lack sufficient mobility and transportation options across the city. We'll also be engaging in local community partnerships. One thing we're really trying to do more of is open street and pedestrian plaza sponsorships and sponsoring of community events. So if anyone on this call, or if anyone in CB2 generally has ideas for open street or pedestrian plazas that we could help work with you on, please reach out to me after this meeting. Similarly, if there are community events that we could get involved with, or ideas that you think Zipcar could fit in to supporting culture in the community, please definitely reach out to us. We'll also be having launch events to notify the public of these new sites and the expansion of on-street car sharing. And we'll be doing support and outreach to promote awareness of the program, including but not limited to various PR campaigns, social media, working with our community partners, hopefully CB2 as well, to distribute flyers to raise awareness of car share and to decrease personal car ownership in the community. And our goal here is to drive awareness and engagement to provide equitable access. To that end, we're constantly doing tests and surveys and data analysis to measure success. If we find something that works, we're going to do our best to double down on it. If we find something that doesn't work, we're going to stop. And we hope to work with the community along the way. And we're really excited about getting this program expanded across New York City. And I thank you for your time, and welcome any questions you guys might have about Zipcar's participation here.
Okay. So yeah, I think a lot of the committee has questions. So that's the presentation, right? So we can get on with my questions now. DOT?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yep. Okay. So Adam first, and then Janet, and then Amy. Yeah.
Thank you. Once again, I've got a bunch of questions kind of breaking down into 3 categories: safety, emission measurement, and use characteristics. I'll start with the first around safety. So when we've had like City Bike or Revel or other kind of new types of programs come into the neighborhood, the community is extremely sensitive to requiring that these vehicles have speed governors, geofences, and other high-tech safety capabilities, so that, these vehicles don't harm people living in the neighborhood. I guess a question for DOT and for the private vendors here, has the government required from a regulatory contractual standpoint that the vehicles will have, above and beyond safety requirements around, geofencing and speed governors? And then, have the private companies themselves voluntarily accepted those types of restrictions on the vehicles? That's my first question. I'll just pause.
So we have not put those measures in place. I can touch base with our legal team on that. I don't know. I'm not sure what our capability is on that, but I can touch base with our legal team.
It could be as simple as, it's just part of the RFP or part of the contractual requirement. You won't allow DOT just doesn't have to allow a vehicle if it's not, a safe vehicle. Second question around emissions. I'm a little skeptical about some of the logic here because there's a bit of a selection bias, right? You're looking at individuals that already don't own cars. So of course, there's going to be lower levels of emission. These are people who just don't, rely on cars. So I guess a question for the two private vendors, how did you measure reduction in emissions, especially during the pilot where there was the 6% reduction in emissions? I guess that'll just be the entire question. How is the reduction in greenhouse gas emissions measured?
So I can answer that in terms of the pilot.
Awesome.
I can share the full evaluation with Jackie in the Manhattan Borough Commissioner's Office so that they can share it with the community board and panelists. It's part of a larger calculation that I will not be able to do justice to if I explain it, but it was based off of the 3 surveys and participants who were part of the Carshare, who participated in the Carshare pilot, their habits of previous Carshare ownership, how they use the program, and whether they either sold their car, didn't buy a car because of Carshare. And it's part of a much larger calculation, but it was based solely on the pilot. And
no, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Thank you. And then my third, no, I really appreciate that. And then my third set of questions is around use. The first question I'm going to ask here is around the common purposes for these trips. The only reason I would sign up for this program is if I wanted to drive to the suburbs. The city is so, especially in this neighborhood, right? We have such rich transit access. I live at 172 Spring Street, so I'm kind of right at the epicenter of 3 of these. And to be completely honest, I hate cars, but if I wanted to go to the suburbs, maybe I would rent a car from Zipcar or the other vendor. But I want to know how the trip types break down. Are people renting these to go to the suburbs? And if so, why not just put the Zipcar site at the Beacon Metro North stop so I can just pick up a car when I get to the suburbs on transit and save the city from added congestion?
So I'll answer this, and then I'll also let the car share companies answer this. We don't get exact data of where people are going. We just get trip duration and miles, and the average trip is about 10 hours. So it kind of tells us people are spending a long time in these cars, whether they're going to the suburbs, upstate, wherever they may go. I think uses for this can range anywhere from you are going to the grocery store for a big haul to a trip out to Long Island or the suburbs or up wherever have you. And one of the reasons that we are promoting this program is because we want to promote alternate modes of transportation. We also want to improve the environment. And if we can help give access to a car without someone owning a car who potentially doesn't need it for everyday use, that's really what we're looking to do. I will also let the car share companies, if they have more specific data on where people are going.
Especially from surveys, because it sounds like you guys have run a number of surveys, which is awesome.
Okay.
Go ahead, Tori.
Sorry, Rachel, you can go first.
So then, are you done? Okay, so Janet, I thought I saw Dan. Oh, Tori, do you want to answer that also?
Oh, I was just going to add that, well, we don't track member locations, so I can't tell you exactly where they're going, but in CB2, from the cars that we currently have here, Our average reservation time over the past 12 months is 10 hours. Our average distance traveled is 77 miles. So these are
Wow.
people who are taking purpose-driven trips to, they're going to visit friends and family, they're going to run important errands, they're going to doctor's appointments and that sort of thing. They're leaving the neighborhood, they're probably leaving Manhattan and the city. Everyone has different use cases for the car. I will say to your suggestion about the Metro North, I will plug that we do have a partnership with Metro North. We have zip cars at a number of different locations along various Metro North lines. Over the past few years that we've had that, we've evaluated the data, and there are some people that want to take the train up and then grab a car there to do the last few miles. But generally speaking, people who are doing those trips, we found based on the feedback we've gotten, they want to pick up a car a few blocks from their house and then drive the whole way. But
Which makes sense, but that's a higher, emission trip than if you were to simply push people to take transit and then pick up the car upstate. And then just in response to a couple of comments around like picking up groceries, like 5 or 6 of these locations are
Adam, can you keep it
within
to
1 block.
questions, please?
Yeah,
The
that's
comments
fine.
we can have in the business session.
Yeah, and then what's the discount that, like, how substantial is the discount that's means tested? Like, what percentage for each of the 2 vendors?
For the SNAP program or for NYCHA or both?
Yeah, both.
The SNAP program is at least 50%. NYCHA is, I don't have the exact percentage, but it's like greater than 75%, I want to say.
Cool.
Hi there, Adrienne from Get Around. Sorry, I joined a little bit late, but I'm working with Rachel on government partnerships. So just to answer your question, Adam, about the discounts. So kind of similarly structured to what Tori mentioned, about 50% off up to a certain dollar threshold. So I think we have that set about 50% off up to about $50. But as you know, as we showed, our discounts are tiered. So just to try out car sharing, that would be a one-time use. But for someone like a NYCHA resident, you would get that recurring multiple times per month.
Okay. Janet.
Okay, I mean, one of my questions was, you're touting that the car was used 24 times a month, which doesn't sound like anything great, but if the average trip is 10 hours, then that sort of makes it sound a little bit better. Of course, what you're going to hear from this community board is concern about inducing demand, that people will drive who wouldn't have driven otherwise, and that's not good.
Question,
a couple
question.
of okay, I'm sorry. So one question is, while you're looking at technology, there's technology out there to prevent drunken driving. So you have an opportunity here to really try out some good tech stuff. There's also technology to prevent, to make sure that, because we're really rigorous about our shared services. And for instance, like Revel, you have to have a picture.
Janet, can you please ask?
Okay, so the question is, will you consider having technology to address drunken driving and also distracted driving? It would be, it's an opportunity. I'll get all my questions. So that's one question. The other question is, parking enforcement sort of sucks in this city. Have you had success actually keeping your space free? And then the third question is New York City giving you this curb space for free? I mean, obviously you're a for-profit business, so I wonder if there are any fees involved with your using this space. Thank you.
So I will answer the 2 questions fairly quickly. We partner pretty heavily with all the traffic enforcement agents and the local precincts about outreach and education on what they should be looking for when the car share cars are in their spaces, and then when there's an illegally parked car. If your car if it's a Get Around car, it'll have Get Around logo, the same with Zip car, and those are parked legally. If the car is not parked legally, it doesn't have any of those logos or branding, the car should be ticketed. We've also allowed the car share companies to mark the streets to say car share only parking, which promotes visibility, and we implemented that in November of 2019, and that dramatically reduced the block spaces, allowing for customers to park in the dedicated spots. As far as cost to the car share companies, there is a permit per site, and that fee is $475 per site annually.
Great, thank you. And what do you think about the technology? Would you explore that?
Again, that's something I would have to check with our legal team on what we're able to do. I will also let the car share companies answer for their respective companies.
So is that $475 per month for the space that you're paying?
No, it's per site annually.
Okay. Sorry.
Hi,
So in
Janet.
other
This is
words,
Tori
I
from.
I would like to clarify that. So in other words, 475 for each of the spaces you use?
It's per site. So each site is 2 spaces. So it's $475 for 2 spaces annually.
Two site annually, which are 2 spaces. Okay. And you pay that to the city, right?
City, yes, correct.
Okay.
I can answer quickly regarding the safety questions. I can say that broadly speaking, nobody hates unsafe drivers more than we do, and we aggressively try to bring them off the platform. In the last year, nationally, internationally, we've kicked over 10,000 people off the platform for dangerous driving issues. So it's something we take extremely seriously, and we, act extremely quickly to address even a sniff of a concern in that regard. And regarding the specific tech questions you had, we're always ready to try new tech as long as it meets various legal requirements and privacy requirements, because we do not collect or track member information. So I'm happy to check with my operations team to see if that's something that's in the pipeline. But in either case, we do a lot of member education through the app. We partner with DOT to promote street and pedestrian safety initiatives, whether it's Vision Zero or otherwise. But I can get back to you on those specific requests.
Thank you.
Janet, this is Get Around, similar to Tori at Zipcar. We've had drivers pretty rigorously on startup, and then thanks for the feedback on new technology. Certainly, we'll keep that in mind. Thank you.
Okay, are you done, Janet? Okay. Amy.
Hi, thanks. A lot of my questions have been answered, but I wanted to ask Get Around one question. When you showed your map earlier, the sites you are suggesting seem to be clustered mostly in the southern part of our district. And I was wondering about center, the northeast, et cetera. And do you already have spots there, or there's a big, as you can see, there's a huge section where there's no spots. And I think this is a great idea. I'm just curious about, do you already have them? And was there a reason why they're centered? The ones you are showing are in the southern part mostly.
Hi, Amy. Adrienne here at Get Around. I can help answer that question. So no, the most updated information I have on our current locations, we don't have any locations in that little gap. What we're trying to do with DOT is put these vehicles down and then learn from them, like we were talking about earlier, to understand how they're used, how much, how often, and then we can consider expanding up, moving some of the locations. So this is really us learning, because we're not in the area right now. What we did a pretty rigorous look at all of the criteria that DOT set forth for us, but also some of the considerations we have, like, making sure they're in visible locations, they're co-located close to transit. So certainly appreciate that feedback, and we'll be looking at those locations in the next round of the DOT program. Thank you.
We have a lot of transit up in the northern part there, a lot. So I'm surrounded by subway stops.
Any other questions, Amy?
No, that's
thank you. Okay, Ritu.
I have 2 questions. What happens when the parking spots that have been allocated to you have been taken up by another vehicle and you can't park? And the second question is, how do you intend to service your vehicles? And this is a special note to Tori. The zip cars in the area, which I use a lot, are really dirty.
I'm sorry to hear that. Regarding the block spaces, it was an issue in the pilot program. Part of it is member education and public education, and as Stevie mentioned, getting the ground mark so people know not to block the spaces. In most instances, the issue clears itself up from like a one-to-one experience. Like if you took an on-street car, came back, and you found that the street was blocked, you would call us and we would direct you to a parking garage that or somewhere nearby to park it while we figure out how to get that car out of the space.
So I wouldn't be charged for the extra time, or
No, that wouldn't. It's something that we're familiar with. It doesn't happen that often, but when it does happen, we're trying to make sure that from a member experience standpoint, it's as convenient for you and as least intrusive as possible. Regarding car condition and maintenance, if you ever have an issue, please reach out to me specifically, but we have a dynamic cleaning service that's fully activated to allow us to clean vehicles after a certain number of uses. It's different in every neighborhood depending on the frequency of how often cars are used. Every time you, I know you said you're a frequent user, so every time you start the trip, I think it asks you to rate, the condition of the vehicle on a scale of 1 to 5, and that score is factored into how quickly we send out our cleaning team, or if we have to take a car out of service to give it a deeper clean. But yeah, we do our best to keep the fleet in as perfect working order as possible to make sure that everyone has a good experience.
Hi, Ritu. I'll just add from GetAround's perspective that when you book a trip and you get to the car, we ask that you take photos of the exterior and you can report, similar to what Tori has mentioned. You can report if the car is dirty or if there is an issue, and then we will report regularly and of course are responsible for maintenance. So we would take that car offline if there were any significant issues, including it was really dirty and it was not pleasant to be in.
Okay. So, anybody else with any? Okay, I just have one question. I'm a little bit confused. Stevie, you're the one who's with DOT, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So is DOT just working with these few car share organizations, or is it almost any car share organization that exists in the city?
Any car share company can register to be part of the program. This is our first, we have just expanded the program to be permanent, and we have 3 registered companies with us. Zipcar, who is part of our pilot, GetAround, and a smaller company called Truckit, who Truckit only has a few sites in Upper Manhattan. So for right now in this community board, it is just GetAround and Zipcar. We do anticipate to grow the program from year to year with more car share companies participating.
And you would be using the same criteria for all of them, right?
Yes, all car share companies will be will have to adhere to the same citing criteria, and we also will be kind of amending the citing criteria as the program grows, when we see what does and doesn't work, and as we get data back from the car share companies as well.
Okay, and I had looked at the list and then I looked at the maps, and it's kind of like, it doesn't seem to be any kind of organization as to why these placements of location were done. And I just wonder if you could explain, they kind of cover, well, east and west, I guess. They don't go too far north. It just seemed it was kind of helter-skelter to me from those locations on the maps. And so I just wondered if you could enlighten a little bit as to why those particular spots were chosen. I mean, rather than a more representative overlay on the locale.
I'll briefly, let both the respective car share companies specifically talk about their sites. I will just say, in general, we provided some strict citing criteria, which really cut off parts of the city. No, I don't want to say cut off, but really like didn't allow some areas in certain communities to be cited. So that kind of allows for, that kind of took away chunks of communities. And yeah, and I will let Tori and Adrian kind of talk.
Yeah, so I wonder if you can arrange to just send me those citing criteria.
Of course, I will send you the citing criteria. Everything's also on our car share website, also all the reports from the pilot as well. So I will send that to Jackie so she can share with you guys.
Right, okay, excellent. Yeah, so yeah, that was a little confusing, and maybe the citing criteria will clarify a little bit.
But I should also say, yeah, this is a community board that on street has not been in previously. So I also think it's a bit of, you know, trial and error to see what works, where it works. But I will let Tori and Adrian talk specifically on their sites.
Right, okay, fair enough. Okay, anything else, gang, that we'd like to ask? Well, I guess that's it. So I think we're going to go into our business session, and thank you all for your very extensive information and for coming to present to us. And as I said before, you're willing to, oh, wait a minute, we've got 2 participants. Sorry.
Yeah, we do.
Yes. Okay, so Anthony, if you can call on them.
Yeah, Jeffrey Rowland.
Hi, you hear me okay?
Yes.
Yep. we
Okay,
can hear you.
I have somewhat of an issue with this. I park regularly and have for years, alternate side of the street parking on Thompson Street, both of those locations. In fact, my car up until today was right in front of 86. And I have an issue with them because if they are going to be like the other services like Rebel and so forth, I find that my experience is that none of them get moved when the street sweeper comes by. And as a consequence, the sweeper can't go straight down the curb line and is sweeping in and out, making it very difficult for those residents who live here, who park regularly, have to figure out a way to accommodate that. And so what I've discovered is that they don't seem to have a clear path to paying the fine if they get a ticket. I've also found that the white caps that issue the tickets are a little reluctant to write the tickets on the service on this kind of service like Rebel and others. So I'm really very upset about this. And given that there are 2 or 3 sheds on that street, and the fact that in fact they're the lower part of Thompson where I live, and next week the upper part as well will be closed for a month because of cranes and building construction. It is difficult to park in this area if you live in this area. And I really don't think that this is going to enhance our community in any way, especially when you have such a cluster of them right in the middle of the Sullivan Historic or Soho area. Maybe spread them further away, maybe assign these sites not on streets that are already alternate side of the street parking for residents, but put it on a Canal Street or Houston Street where there's room and you could take a space and no one would be affected by it during the rest of the time. So it's unclear to me when they park, the people who take it for an hour come in and park it. If they park it legally parked at a time and then it sits there unused during the period of time that the sweeper comes by, they get, what happens? They don't get moved. The sweeper can't clean the street. And already the sheds have made that a problem. So I'm very much opposed to this, at least this location, the ones I'm looking at on the screen right now, and maybe against the whole policy. I think it's taking the space that is used by the public residents and assigning it to a single purpose, much like the sheds did. And that just doesn't seem right to me. I know that there's a big push to have less cars in New York City, and I would love to, as a retired person, be able to afford rentals, even the free ones, but I'm not going to be able to go travel out to see my sister 100 miles and spend the night with one of these services. I'm going to have to rent a car, and that's expensive. And so that is not, I don't see this as the solution to pollution. I see this as a gimmick for a business to make money. So I'm sorry, but I'm opposed to this, and I wanted to make myself known. Thank you.
I can just respond to the alternate side parking and cleaning. The Carshare companies are responsible for cleaning their spaces, the 15 feet before and the 15 feet after their spaces. We had this model during the pilot as well, and we get bi-weekly reports on these cleanings, and I can assure you if the sites are not being cleaned, I certainly hear about it. And throughout the pilot, any complaints that we got about the cleaning was actually that the cleaners were too loud with the vacuuming of the sites and the cars. So these Carshare companies will be cleaning their spaces. We will be getting reports on it, and we will be making sure that it's happening. But they do not have to move the cars for ASP because they are responsible for cleaning their own sites. And these cars will be in use. So more often than not, the cars may not even be there when street cleaners go down the block. I can't speak to Rebel or the other companies, but for Carshare, they do clean their sites, and they will be.
Okay, and there was someone else too, right, Anthony?
Yeah, Darlene Lutz.
Oh, Darlene, okay.
Hi,
All right,
thank
are you
you.
ready?
Hi, it's Darlene Lutz. Thank you for the opportunity. I'm co-signing with what Jeffrey Rowland just explained, particularly about the areas where these seem to be clustered in the South Village, which is highly residential and right now clustered with sheds. So I don't know, I'm trying to reconcile why those were chosen. I used a Carshare back in the day. Hertz had a program, Hertz Connect. It wasn't successful. They killed it. It was, it's not all a dream. The cars are, even at Hertz level, the cars are dirty, getting gas. There's no place to get gas around here anymore. And also, can you take these out of state? And can you take these cars out of state? Do they have Easy Pass? All of that stuff, because, if you're talking about just, we're talking about a lot of issues that, if congestion pricing comes in, you pick up a zip car down here and you want to go above 60th Street and come back here, are you going to get the charge for that? There's a lot wrong with this. It's been tried. The Hertz had their cars down here in a garage. Zipcar even had theirs in a parking lot. It seems, that's where they should be, in parking lots, not on the streets. And good luck, because, Hertz couldn't make it work, so.
Okay, thanks, Darlene. So is that it, Anthony? Any more?
Nope, that's it.
Okay, fine. Well, then we have to go into our business session. So thank you very much, all of you, for your presentations, for the input, for answering our questions. And can you now just leave us to right? Thank you. And as I say, you can stick around. And I was just thinking the congestion pricing is going to limit beyond 60th Street, huh? 60th, right. Okay, so back to 10th Avenue between Gansevoort and Horatio. And anybody want to start? I think that the general consensus was very positive toward this plan. And I would just like the committee's input now.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I think it's great. It's something that we supported in the past. There are a couple of things that we want to see more designs on, like, the granite blocks and where the tables are going to be and how many, and also the signal timing. We know that's been an issue, and I think that the more we can get for it, the better. So it's a very long diagonal crosswalk.
Oh yeah, keep going.
Yeah, what do they say, 43 feet, but we should check on that, but we should get more and more information on the signal timing and how it relates to up and down West Street.
And how, right, exactly. It's 42 second signal timing and how it relates to up and down West Street. Because that's the whole idea, that you're wanting to get some kind of regularity and safety in all the crossings.
That's right. 13th and 14th is not long enough. We've heard plenty of complaints on Hudson River Park Advisory Council meetings, and it would be good to correct this area. And since you have all these event spaces across the street, you need more time to cross.
Right. Right, so the granite blocks and what else did you say?
There were
was
tables. There's not much of a design. It was kind of,
tables.
was lacked detail, but I'm
Yeah,
sure we'll get more later on.
planting, detail, we would like more details, okay.
And also the more detail on the bike paths. I agreed with that comment. I thought that it was pretty rudimentary. It'd be good to see exactly how they're planning to design it too. More detail.
Yeah, okay, fine, and Janet, you had something that you said that was related to what Dan was saying, and I just can't remember.
Yeah, that they
Yeah.
should. I mean, they said they're gonna bring it back later, but that we should encourage them to connect it to 12th Street, you know, as soon as possible. Because that's a little weird. And then,
Because you can only go one way, right? Right,
yeah, and like
yeah.
12th Street's right there, and I guess there's some extra steps they have to go, but it would be
Yeah,
a pretty,
but it should be-
beneficial connection.
Yeah, hand in hand, in other words. we want-
I feel strongly about that point. The time to address it is now.
Uh-huh. There was something you were saying, Dan, and I just can't remember what the heck it was. We talked about the signal timing, the bike path.
There are event spaces across the street, so a lot of people are using these crossing areas. And 13th and 14th Street are currently at 25 seconds. It's pretty light, and so we need to make sure that they're all in sync in a way.
Right. Oh, I know what it was. It was to do with the diagonal crossing.
Right, the diagonal crossing being especially.
And that there was some concern, somebody was concerned that maybe the diagonal crossing was so long and that you could possibly do a straighter crossing, but maybe that's impossible.
There is one already. It's a block apart. I didn't agree with that comment.
Okay, and definitely would all agree then? That's the diagonal crossing should be kept diagonal. I mean, Dan, you're the one that's most familiar with those locations. And
Someone did about the diagonal crossing. Someone said that it's less safe. A diagonal crossing is less safe. I don't know anything about that. Can anybody comment on that? They said, you know, you can't see the cars and they're right behind
Canal
you.
Street has a blind side crossing that's diagonal, and there's to a degree, but if the lights are red and no one's making turns, and in this case, no one would be making turns. It's not, to me,
That's
it's
right.
not legitimate.
yeah.
Thanks.
Right, no one would be making turns, because that would be the concern if it was a safety issue, right? And so no one would be making turns there based on the pattern.
Right,
Design.
very similar to Google's crossing, where it's just straight across the street, and there's no traffic. All traffic has to stop.
Right. That's true. Because there's a straight, right?
Mhm.
But whatever the case, okay, so the diagonal crossing is not something to particularly mention.
The more crossings we can get to Hudson River Park, the better. And these are two unique crossings, a block apart.
Did they say they were doing, I heard them say they were doing only one of the crossings improvement.
No, it's diagonal.
say
They
the
they
two?
connect. If you
Oh, okay.
see the picture, they
Okay.
wind up in the same spot, but they start one's one block north of the other.
So, and so the improvement obviously is going to make it safer in general. Would everybody agree to that? Crossings make it safer in general. And then Janet. So
I mean, I don't know. I don't think there's enough support in this group to go there, but I'm not sold on why they're keeping traffic there at all, honestly. Because it seems like there's a connection at 15th Street. Like, what the hell? Like, Jeffrey doesn't want the cars to go through the meatpacking district, but we're just talking about 10th Avenue, which is a large avenue. And they go up 10th Avenue and they take a left on 15th Street. So I wasn't sold that, but you know, Adam's coming and the other gentleman,
yeah.
I don't know.
Well,
I mean,
okay, I'll just tell you the kind of feedback I got, because originally I think we were talking, when we were talking in our conversation, we were kind of hoping that we would pedestrianize the whole thing. So you're not so far from where we were headed. And then Jeffrey pointed out, and this is the way the conditions are now, and that's why we pulled back, was basically it's the Whitney Museum, which right now occasionally has its art pieces, which are enormous, I gather, and they probably use tractor trailers delivered so that they need some kind of access for that. And maybe next month, and they are coming, the Meatpacking District bid is coming with an update on the plan they originally presented. So that might be the time to really hash it out with them. As to, maybe there's a timeline about it where you, okay, I'll tell you what my point of view is. My point of view is get it in the ground, get this thing going, and then let's move from there, because things in this city are never, the big things are never done. Boom, boom, boom. It's usually, unfortunately, incrementally. I choke on the word, but okay, that's my impression.
Right.
So yeah, what you said, we were headed that way.
And, you know, the idea of a shared street is that there is a movable, so, you know, there are deliveries are allowed on open streets. So if one could have it as a completely open street with a barrier that would swing open when the Whitney had to make a special installation. But I understand that we want to move ahead on this.
Wait a minute, so there's no reason why we can't recommend something. I mean, we recommend, right? So, Janet, would you be willing to put a whereas with the open streets and there's a possibility? So to please consider pedestrian, a more pedestrian space, something like that.
Sure.
Would everybody be in favor?
Or park-like space.
Park-like space, how's that, Janet? So you want to take a hand at it and
sure,
slip it in? I mean, what's going to be eventually is what they're going to do. However, there's no reason why we don't throw in an idea. And even maybe with the understanding, yeah, right now you need that path to the Whitney and maybe some meatpacking trucks. That's what Jeffrey mentioned too, I think.
And it may help Jeffrey and the meatpacking bid get to the next step.
That's true. So, okay, so we'll throw that one in. And anybody else have anything to say in approval and disapproval and whatever? I mean, the fact is that it is a space that really hasn't done much more except for the people who are speeding through there. Right. And Rita, you have mentioned that you've actually been witness to this kind of thing and to the noise and so on. So I'm just going to say Janet, Frezzo, open street, pedestrianization or partial pedestrianization and greening. Is that what you said, Dan? Greening, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it'd be nice if TF Cornerstone would spend some money and, you know, like do it right.
Okay. So basically, actually we said some of those things last time about this being a tremendously wide space, which really is wasted space that could be put to the benefit of the community. And we're in favor of all the ideas for the amenities and greening and seating and so on and so forth. So I guess that one I draft one and they wait for Janet as soon as you can, like tonight. No.
Okay,
but
now
really soon.
tomorrow.
You
Yeah,
can get it to me and I'll slip it in. And anybody else that has any thoughts like that might be more toward moving toward the pedestrianization. Oh, and what we can also put in, I guess, is something to do with the MPD coming next month, right? And that we're looking forward to discussing with them
a broader
the broad,
Outline.
broader, yeah, the broader, like the bike lanes. And we can also say something about a broader, whatever, broader, like the bike lanes.
Yeah, and Shirley, your point that this is kind of phase one, and we want to make sure it gets approved quickly, but it should, to Janet's point, continue to expand. It's like phase
Right.
one of hopefully a greater plan.
Will continue to develop, right? And the thing about the 12th Street and 13th Street, to put that in,
Yeah.
right? That we should be looking at doing them hand in hand.
Right, that shouldn't be the
Correct.
future, that should be now, yeah.
Doing 12th and 13th Street bike lanes hand in hand. And that would be because you're really kind of like you're cutting off the head and put in the feet or vice versa, right? So whatever. Okay, does everybody agree? Okay, so we go on to Carshare. And I never realized there were so many issues. I gotta tell you, well, I use certainly, well, the Carshare type things, or I use rent a car sometimes because I don't have a car. I've sold my car. So every now and then for like a more extensive trip. So I found it invaluable for that. And I found it good for people who really want to get rid of their cars, but occasionally need cars for getting places. But
I mean,
having
one thing
said
that I
that, maybe it's the rental agencies you only should go to. I mean, it was pointed out by Darlene that it didn't even succeed in the first place. So anyhow, who's first? Dan's first on that.
Yeah, I'll be really quick. I think it's a tremendous attribute for the neighborhood to be able to have a car that's car sharing, but I think it's outrageous that they paid $475 for the spots.
Right, okay, so
It should be market value. It's a business. It's not a pro bono service.
price for use of the curb, right?
Yeah, I mean, what does it cost for two parking
Maybe.
spots in that
It
neighborhood?
costs
It costs $1,000 a month in like 2 blocks away from where they want to do this. It's $1,000 per month per parking spot. So that's a $2,000 per month space that they're giving away for $475 a year. So instead of getting 12,000, they're getting 475.
Divided by 2.
Yeah, so that's definitely one to put in. Okay. Ritu, since you
That was my point.
saying something. Okay, that was your point.
No,
Adam,
also, I see a problem with people are going to park in that spot and they have no way to monitor. They have no monitors. So basically, it's going to be an experiment, and the only ones that are going to be uncomfortable or put out are the renters, the people who are renting that car, because they're not going to be able to park, and there are going to be all kinds of situations. So I think they need a more solid plan for a more congested and more populated area like the West Village.
yeah, well, I think there were so many different shortcomings that were brought up. Okay, Adam, you go.
Thanks. Yeah, I mean, I have 2 concerns. I guess one is more feasible than the other. The feasible one is, let's use this chance to really push them on safety features. Like, the city just announced a certain subset of the city fleet would have, geo-specific speed governors that you can't exceed the speed limit. I think things like that, anti-drunk driving measures, anti-distracted driving measures, and then maybe even automatic detection of like wrong way driving, things like that. I mean, as I understand it, all those things were required of the Rebel scooters when that rolled out. There's
Oh, really?
But they don't follow them. They drive them on the sidewalks without a helmet. I see it every single.
All right, whatever.
So let's
Let him finish.
but great. I mean, So, I mean, that's great, right? So like, let's make it in the car. Like, let's make the, like, let's require this. That'll also create like a market incentive for more car companies to offer those features where they don't necessarily offer them standard. If there's, a greater sort of market pressure requesting those features. This is my first thing that I'd like. And, if the rest of the committee agrees with me, I'd be happy to write kind of the whereas and the be it resolved requesting those features. I guess I'll pause since, I'm looking for consensus.
Yeah, and in other words, the things you were saying before, you're really saying now too, is that the kind of safety features that we think should be in these kinds of vehicles, we'd like to see, and this is what is needed, right? Like you were saying, for instance, governors of speed.
And ultimately, there's, yeah.
Okay.
Why aren't
So
these
how does
electric
everybody?
vehicles?
Wait a minute. We can stop cutting in. Wait, raise your hand if you're going to talk. Anyhow, how does everybody else feel about that? Because Adam, I will just go like this, like Adam did. Yeah. Is there enough people that feel that way? 1, 2, 3.
Yes.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Unanimous.
Yeah, and Nancy does 6, and I do too.
I would like to read it first. I'm not, but sure.
Yeah, I mean,
All right, well then, we can always have the vote on it after we pass it around.
And then,
But Adam, yes, why don't you do a whereas and a resolve with that?
sounds good.
Let's
And then,
just fact that there are the concerns about safety to pedestrians, to our community, and that more and more is being done in terms of these kinds of safety features in cars, and that we would recommend that, whatever, however way you want to put it. We can always edit you.
sounds good. And then, generally I am concerned about this. Like, I agree it's a convenience for people, but like cars are a convenience, right? And like, if you just keep going with what's convenient, you're going to end up with, Houston, Texas. And oh, there we go. So I guess my point is, I would prefer to see, an expansion of like the Metro North partnership or Long Island Railroad partnership, but like, I don't think that opinion is going to win with, sort of the more moderate voice prevailing. So in that case, that's why I'm kind of going for the safety features as a compromise.
Okay, so Janet.
I think it's all been covered, but Adam, I've been going to some conferences, so I'll might shoot you some information, Adam, some information on some of the technology. And then I think the ships, I don't think we have an ability to stop this, right?
No.
No, so
Saying that they were announcing this to us, that this was coming. They weren't saying we want your input, particularly on how to run it or anything like that, as I said in my note to all of you. And that's why I asked if you wanted to see it, because it's kind of like a done deal. I was just wondering, the locations just seemed so kind of haphazard to me, where they were putting them too.
Yes.
And Jeffrey came up with that whole thing about the
Yes.
street cleaning, which is interesting. Well,
Could we build a consensus around like the pricing, I think really irks everybody a lot. Like once we write this, could we get, CB1, CB4, maybe create wider voices on at least pricing the curb fairly? Some of this.
yeah, I don't see why not. I mean, the thing is we are doing a resolution, okay? Should we do a resolution? That's the question. Does everybody agree we should do a resolution? Yeah. Okay. So then what the usual procedure is.
Yeah.
You share the resolution.
I have
If
a
you
question.
words. And that's what, is that, wait a minute, let me finish with Janet. So is that what you meant?
Yes.
Yeah, you're off now. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, that we
So
could.
that's what we
build
would
on.
do. Okay, so we've got Janet contributing something, we've got Adam contributing something, we've got Dan, you contributing? No.
I think I'm covered in the two. I think you're going to pick
Yeah.
up the
Right.
$475 for the year.
Yeah, okay. So, okay, Lois.
Shirley?
Hello?
Yes, thank you. Please clarify for me, is the spot, like, let's just say, where is it, 125 Thompson? What if someone's in that spot, a car is in that spot, then you park that car, the rent-a-car thing, how does the other person find that car? I'm a bit curious of how you find the car if it's not at 125 Thompson. How do you find the car?
Didn't they say they have an app, and that through the app you kind of find where a car is? Right? Yeah.
They have an app, yes, to unlock the car.
No, I think it was
but
also to
I'm very
locate. I'm pretty sure it was also.
Is
to
that how it
locate.
works? It wasn't clear to me.
Anybody else?
So how do you go around looking?
I'm sure
for the
they have
car?
a sensor in the car, Lois, just like, you can say that there are 8 city bikes and 2 spaces. I'm sure there's some geolocator to find the car.
Yeah.
With
Yeah,
city
I
bikes, it's very clear because there's stations. But with parking spots, especially at night, it's very difficult to find that specific car.
So other
or
cities
to
have
park
like,
the car as well.
Anybody else have? My impression is that you do it through the app. You say where you are, and somehow you find it.
Also, they're putting up signage. Remember, they're gonna have signage
Oh,
around the,
yeah.
so.
But it's a good question. Adam's about to say, some cities have sensors built into the pavement, so
That's it. Are they
open
putting
or
yellow lines around it or sensors? It's a little confusing for me. And the second question is, how do they get their cars? Is it like an individual such as myself who wants to do they buy the car from me that I want to sell it to them? How do they get those cars?
You know what? I don't know. What do you think, Adam? You think? I mean, I think this is not exactly advancing our resolution. Okay. I mean, if you want to find those things out, I suppose you can.
Okay.
Well, okay.
Well, I just think it's a bit strange. This.
Okay.
And it's done.
I'm just
Right?
trying
You said
to
it's a
figure out
done
what we
deal.
should put in a resolution, okay? And they're good questions, but they don't advance the resolution. I mean, what are you suggesting? If the resolution should say they should have this or that to find the car?
A clear way to find the car, especially at night.
I'm sure that exists in the app.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it does too. Okay,
I
Adam.
mean, you go into
say
a
more?
lift, you go into a lift, you go into.
I don't know, you're not coming across to me, Lois. Somehow you're breaking up. Okay, Adam.
I was just gonna very quickly say, it is curious how when there's a pro-car initiative introduced by the city, we're told that it's coming. And when there's any type of like, pro-transit or bus lane or bike lane, there's years of review. I just think it's interesting how something that's going to add car trips to the city was pushed out so quickly.
Well, you know what? I think I disagree with you about adding car trips. I really do. Because I again say I as an example. And I'm not saying this thing is going to work the way it is, but I as an example am somebody who sold my car because I knew that there was an alternative if I needed to use a car. And I will tell you, I hardly ever rent a car. I use mass transit, I walk. I don't bicycle because I'm kind of past the stage of doing that in the city. But I feel I'm the example. And as an example, I think it actually does encourage people who are thinking in that direction, feeling like they have the option. But I also agree with you that this system doesn't seem to add up somehow. Dan.
I was just going to say that I used to use zip cars a lot. I don't, but friends of mine who have kids in college use them all the time. They drive to college. They can't, there isn't really an easy way to visit your kid for them without owning a car. And it would take too long to go up for like a day or two. So it makes sense in a lot of ways. And I do think my friends just happen to used to own a car and don't own a car anymore, for Shirley's point, because they don't drive very often and it's there for them if they need it. But we have it at Pier 40. I've used Zipcar at Pier 40 quite often, but they're paying for spaces. I'm sure they're not paying $475. So.
Yeah, so, okay, there are a couple of other things. I think the thing that Jeffrey Rowland brought up was that there really hasn't been any kind of study. He didn't say it that way, but I'm saying it that way, that talks about how you do efficiently utilize curb space so that it is allocated in a kind of, I guess, equitable manner. So
it's hard to argue that a car owned by one person sitting in one curb space is more equitable than a shared car. There's like, you can't argue that. If
no,
that's
I'm
what
not
he's
talking
talking.
about
No,
that.
not
I'm
you,
talking
but
about
I think
the other uses of curb space.
oh, the other uses. Well, that's
Right,
why we have to.
exactly. Well, he was
price
saying,
it.
he was talking about the sheds, say, and how many of the sheds will remain and how many really are doing what they're supposed to or whatever. And then he was talking about street cleaning. So there are a lot of things that, from my impression from input tonight, it seems haven't been worked out. And so one would be the kind of equitable division of curb space. And does this really, the curb space that's going to be used, has that been really factored in, I guess, with other curb space uses that are being considered?
Well, I think the city's position is it's certainly more equitable than a private
Oh, sure.
parking space.
Right, right. And I didn't even think about the private.
Yeah,
I was thinking about, and I think maybe that was Jeffrey's point. He was saying it for other things, but I was thinking that how do you decide? Do we put that in? I mean, I'm just throwing it out. If you don't agree, I won't bother. Okay, nobody agrees.
Shirley, I think when you bring into account sheds and stuff, I have concerns the same way you do. That I'm not particularly talking about this, but just in general, how is public space, is there a grand plan? How do people think this through? I'm for this program, so it's not about that, but I hear what you're saying.
Okay, I'm going to sum up what I've heard, which is that there is a need. Clearly, the idea behind this maybe isn't such a bad one, because it allows for those, it allows for those who don't have cars and encourages those who do have cars to get rid of them, to have alternatives. The question is that it doesn't sound like this has been thought out in ways that really serve the public. I mean, the costs of the space that they use is obviously too cheap. There were other kinds of things brought up that I made notes on. I'm just trying to figure out where to go with it. I don't want to say this shouldn't be done, but maybe that it should be done in a more thought out way.
I want more thought out, but this seems like they haven't really studied all the issues that we brought up. And
Right.
the giveaway from the city for the real estate is unfair to residents in some ways.
At all the issues.
Not equitable to give away that to a profitable company.
No, it's certainly not equitable to give away.
Maybe it's a good baseline to start charging for curb space. It should be at least $475 per annum.
For half a one.
Well,
half a space. Whatever. Oh, George. George, unmute yourself.
Here we go. Yes,
Okay.
I think space is so valuable in this city that we shouldn't give it away. And that, first of all, we should have maximize the amount of space that we make available to people to enjoy, and that's people without cars. But if we have to accommodate cars, let's make sure they pay market rate for the space that they use. If that's the alternative, is to pay in a parking garage. Why should we give away a public asset so that we can have more polluting vehicles and killing cars, which is they are a very dangerous thing to have in our city. So I would say market-based parking pricing should be the very minimum that we have.
Okay. So you know what I'm hearing? What I'm hearing mostly, everybody is really up in arms because of the tiny amount they're having to pay. Sounds to me like more than anything else, this is really a real rub. So obviously that goes in. And then maybe we just throw in like the stuff that Adam can do a little whereas and resolved about that it would be good to have some guidelines for what these cars should be having in terms of technology and how they're regulated. Adam, you could do that, right? Yeah, okay. And Natasha.
Can I just say?
Oh, unmute yourself.
Can I just say about the pricing that we should put something that is, evaluated every year, right? So we don't want it to be $1,000 a space in 5 years when it's $2,000 to rent, right? So it's not a set thing. I mean, it is.
Natasha, Amy, raise your hand when you want to talk. Natasha.
Sorry if I missed this from the DOT part of the presentation. Did they mention any kind of reporting mechanism from the pilot? Like whether it's after 6 months, after a year? Sorry if I missed that.
Yeah, well, they started in 2018.
For the pilot program?
Yes.
There is a report
I think they said till 2020. Is that what they said?
They put a report into the chat, a link
Okay.
to a report from April 2021.
Oh, 21. Okay.
but they should reevaluate it. I think when Natasha's after, I mean, that applies to their pilot in the Bronx. Like, how will that apply to CB2?
Okay. Anyone else? Yeah, okay. Would anybody like to sum up where we're going with this? Because on the one hand, Ritu, would you like to sum up where we're going with this?
Well, this is what I think I've heard, that most folks are generally supportive of the idea.
Right.
The presentation, however, was incomplete. There were strong concerns about lacking a market rate for the spaces.
Right.
And that we need to have a more fleshed out presentation.
And the presentation should include a more realistic, a more fleshed out program, I guess, because this is a program they're presenting, fleshed out program.
Because
Including,
essentially, You know, if
Um,
you look at every part of Manhattan, you go a few blocks and you have a completely different environment. And so to do something uptown versus doing it downtown already creates, you know, different issues that they haven't really addressed.
Okay, all right, then I think I'll go from there, saying that in some ways this is a program that is desirable, but it's really not right now. It's just not, as you said, fleshed out. I guess I was also thinking of what Darlene had said about it not working in the first place. So who knows? You know, yeah,
You know,
Janet?
things come and go, and the whole concept of shared, you know, we share much more than we used to. So who knows why it failed? It'd be good to know why it failed.
Well, yeah,
When-
that's true too. It's true. Okay, I guess I'll just take a stab at it, and then maybe you'll just tell me what else you want. And Adam, please send me the stuff about the technology that might be needed. And Amy, what was the phrasing that you said? You said that with the pricing, you were talking about the pricing being variable or something?
No, about being updated.
Yes, that every year it's reevaluated. Let's look at inflation right now. I mean, will it be worth that?
Oh, update the pricing.
Yeah,
I see.
you know, they could do an average of, you know, what it costs to rent in this neighborhood, not across New York City, but in this neighborhood. In this district.
Actually, something that I was, sorry, may I raise my hand?
Okay, yes, I see your hand.
When we were talking about outdoor dining, this was also my strong position that we should charge market rent. You recall me saying let's charge market rent. And at that time, I was thinking, how would you evaluate market rent? I think it's not just the average of a spot in a rental garage, because a rental garage is not nearly as desirable as, you know, actual street front, you know, curb space. That's prime, you know, New York City real estate. There can be a mechanism to evaluate the market rent. If we say market rent, baked into that is, you know, inflation increases, right? Because we're saying it's market rent, not market rent in 2019, but market rent today. And, you know, I'm very supportive of pretty much any use of New York City streets, as long as people are paying, you know, their fair share for it.
The rightful share, right? Yeah, me too.
Raise my hand this time.
Right, good girl.
The other thing that I think is really important, you know, look at City Bikes as an example. They needed to hire so many staff in order to keep the stations filled and rebalanced, to fixing the bikes. And there's no oversight or monitoring process that they presented to us.
So we'd like a monitoring process. Yeah.
When it's locked up in a garage, it's a different story, but this is going to be on the street.
Okay.
They probably asked for the street because it's cheaper. We got a lot of garages. They could have this program running out of garages.
I think that some do, don't they? That some do use garages.
Zipcar does.
Amy.
Yeah, Zipcar does. I thought somebody said, why aren't they taking spaces in parking lots? I think that's true. I mean, why aren't they paying market rate and leaving the curb for other uses, whether it's, we can think of a million other uses for it, right? So, yeah.
No, I think they did say that they did use a garage, that there was some of it that was indoors.
Zipcar
didn't get really details on it, but whatever, anyhow. The monitoring I've written down. If it's going to be on the street, you need much more intensive monitoring as to the cleanliness, whether the spaces are vacated for street cleaning, et cetera, et cetera. Right, Adam?
I'm just, I know it's late, but I think, the point about parking lots, right? The market rate for a spot in a parking lot or a parking garage, I think would be less than the market rate for a street designated curb space, because the curb space is so valuable. And if we priced, if the market realities were priced in like that, you would end up diverting these Zipcar programs to garages where they would, be able to achieve higher margins. So like, with this market pricing scheme, there's so many upsides, because you're going to end up with, real feasible, not dysregulate or not dislocated solutions. You're going to get, things will work the way they ought to work.
Okay, you know what? I think we've talked enough. Well, I never expected we were going to be here till 8:20. So thank you all, and thank you for bearing with me. Gee, I hope that Jeffrey said that they didn't do a transcript. Ay. Whatever. Anyhow, I will do my best. And Janet and Adam, I think, are the ones that are going to give me some whereases and resolves, and I'll integrate them. And if any of you have any other thoughts, just email me. And thanks again for all your input and for all your patience. And hey, have a good weekend too. I hear the weather's going to be good. Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you.